Alright guys, so we begin at another view of Akamar 3. Again, we have the Hope in orbit, but now next to the Hope in orbit of Akamar 3 is the very damaged Ambassador class USS Zhukov. And the name of this mission is Assume a Virtue. And I believe we have a personal log from Mr. Raw Yalix.
Yep. Chief Engineer's log, stardate 74690.1. The USS Zhukov has become our emergency assistance, rather than the other way around. After Lieutenant Montgomery wisely decided to take remote control of some of the fighter wings, he caused a collision between a fighter and another ship. Frankly, this idiot's lucky he didn't set off any torpedoes by accident, and now he's going to have an even harder time having these people follow orders than he already does. The ship's current commanding officer, Lieutenant Commander Bergen, has given the order to beam the Zhukov's injured to the Hope, and Chief Specialist Lenars has been placed in charge of triage. Most of the critically injured have been sent to Dr. Delix, while the rest have been evenly dispersed among the other higher-ups in the medical department. On my end, the Zhukov has essentially been sent to hell and back. Many vital systems are damaged, and we don't have the supplies to completely repair her, but I feel like we can at least patch her back up enough to get them back to Starbase 234, where she can get more extensive repairs. Captain Tuzon is still on Akamar 3, so he'll be briefed further on recent events by Commander Sophanth upon his return. First day. Fun. End log.
And in our first scene, we're going to continue where we left off with Monty. So Tuzon, you gave the order to come back to the ship with Lana. We're going to play that a little bit later. We're going to...
All right.
But yeah, the situation we're in is, if you can remember, Montgomery, Naval just told you that he uncovered some information in the medical records that it looks like at a Parisi Square match in your academy days, you suffered some damage or injuries that don't make sense for you as an android, like broken ribs and then, an arm injury. And he was just asking you where, how does that make any sense considering that you don't have that anatomy? And remember that programming that had been causing you some issues to make you second guess yourself? Just chimed in and told you that the easiest way to deal with this solution would be just to kill Naval.
Monty just tilts his head and looks at Naval for a second, and his eyes start shifting side to side, and he steps closer to him and is like, "Can I... So, I need to leave right now."
Very well, Lieutenant. I hope everything is okay. Do you require any assistance?
He starts just trying to think for, like, he has that expression and he's trying to think and he's trying to say something, and he gets that little tick on the side of his face, on his left cheek, and he's like, "Run."
Are you telling me to run, Lieutenant?
And Monty's just going to walk past him, and he's going to go up to one of the walls, pull off the panel, and he's going to look for an EPS relay, and he's going to punch it.
Okay. Why don't you roll some damage for me? Your security plus your unarmed, and let's see what you do.
Security. Darian, control.
You don't have to roll to hit, just roll the damage for me. I imagine that you could hit the wall very easily.
So 2, oh, there you go.
Yeah, so 4 damage. I'd say, yeah, you put a significant amount of damage here into the wall. You bust open the conduit. There's some sparks and everything that fly. Some of those computer screens on the other side of the CIC wink out as perhaps you knocked out some of their power systems. And Naval actually taps on his communicator. CIC to Lieutenant Commander Sophanth, please.
This is Sophanth. Why do I hear things breaking in the background?
Lieutenant Commander, I believe we have a situation in the CIC. Mr. Montgomery is in some kind of distress.
Okay, I'm coming down personally.
See, I want to take the relay, and I'm going to just electrocute myself with it.
Okay.
You want to roll damage for that?
So an EPS power relay would probably do lethal damage to you. You know that, right?
We've seen Data take a shit ton of damage before.
Just off the top of my head, I'm gonna say it's 5 challenge dice, but with vicious 1, and I will spin a threat because that's gonna be lethal.
Okay.
Yay,
boy.
drama.
Okay, so that is 6 lethal damage, which means that you most likely have at least 1 injury. I don't think you have lethal resistance, do you?
I have resistance 1, and then I have extra resistance if it's non-lethal.
Okay, resistance 1 still puts you at 5 damage. So yeah, you do have a lethal injury here. So you could give me threat or use your determination, I believe, to still stay up. But yeah, those are your choices.
You can also just take the injury because
Yep.
I think I know where you're going with this.
Well, because there's a little bit more I want to do, so I'm going to give you the threat.
Okay.
And so what happens is Monty pulls the panel off. He breaks past a couple of the internal structures of the housing to pull out a wire, and he just plants it in his chest, and he electrocutes himself. And he drops the line because it dies, and he just kind of slumps for a second, and then he stands back up, and he is immediately walking out and heading down the hallway. And if anyone following him, he would be heading to his quarters.
I'd say before you get to the hallway, I'd like to throw Sofant in.
All right.
Just for dramas.
And it's worth noting that I've brought along 2 security officers, and we're all carrying Type 3 phasers. And if I've got to give you threat, momentum, whatever, we can. But I was mostly just taking them for flavor.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, I show up. I take one look around to the CIC. I take a look at Naval, take a look at Montgomery, and I look at Montgomery and I say, "Lieutenant, explain yourself. What's going on?"
He's just going to try and walk past you. His face is just completely blank.
I mean, I hold my ground until you're like an inch from me, and then I'll move just enough to let you pass. But the entire time I'm studying you for signs that you are cognizant, I guess. Like, are your eyes moving, or are they locked straight ahead? Maybe some sort of a body twitch.
His hands, his fingertips would be twitching every now and then, but his eyes are locked forward. He's making no expressions, and he's just walking dead straight towards his quarters.
All right, I point at my 2 security officers, say, "You two, keep ahead of him, keep everybody out of the way. I don't care if you have to literally transport them out of the way. I don't want anyone coming into contact with Montgomery until we figure out what's going on." I tap my comm badge. This is Stefan to Lieutenant Commander Rayelix.
This is Rayelix. Go ahead.
How knowledgeable are you about androids, Rayelix? I haven't had really time to read your dossier.
I've interacted with them, but I haven't necessarily worked on them, if that's what you're asking.
So what you're saying, instead of having a degree in theoretical physics, you have a theoretical degree in physics. I will take it. I need you to
Okay.
report to corridor, and I look around, corridor 9, section Delta. We have a ongoing problem with Montgomery.
All right, on my way.
And then I look at Naval and I say, "Naval, what happened?" Like, I see, obviously, he did something to an EPS conduit, but what happened?
And Naval gives you the short summary of the findings that he had, were basically that he uncovered an injury that was reported that Montgomery took at the academy that doesn't make any sense. Like, the damage was like cracked ribs and broken bones that just don't make any sense. And he presents that to you very quickly. And he tells you that, he tried to reconcile that with Montgomery, and then all this happened.
Well, if this was a human or really any non-android species, I would think that you inadvertently triggered some form of PTSD, but he's an android. Are they even capable of that? Uh, Naval, remind me, are you skilled at all in CIC operation?
Uh, Not exactly. I could get someone who is, though.
I'm delegating this to you, Naval. I probably shouldn't, but I have bigger fish to fry right now. Get someone in here that's not going to throw fighters into one another, and I would be happy even if that's an ensign or hell, a petty officer. But I'm delegating this to you.
Understood. As far as I can tell, the board looks fairly clean at this point. We just have the rescue fighters being tractored in by the Zukov. I can find someone to deal with this.
Thank you, Naval. And we'll talk more about this later. And then I sort of hurry off after my two security officers and Montgomery. Hopefully by then Ra Yelix has showed up.
And I'm going to put you guys in the hallway. And you do eventually catch up with Montgomery, who's making, Montgomery, I believe you said just a beeline towards your quarters.
Yeah.
Well, good to see you, Ra Yelix. As you can see, something is very, very wrong with Mr. Montgomery.
Uh, um. So what exactly happened before I got here? I got some kind of notification about a broken EPS conduit, but that was about it.
Long story short, apparently Naval triggered some sort of a psychotic break in Montgomery. I didn't even think androids could do that. But the psychotic break led Montgomery to electrocute himself. For what purpose, I still don't know. But after doing so, he's now in the state you see him.
I see. Lieutenant Montgomery,
No response.
has he entered his quarters yet?
If the gym allows, yeah.
Yeah, that's up to you.
Yeah, he just goes straight in. If you guys follow, you'd see his quarters are actually pretty well decorated. Um, it's similar to how Data had his quarters, though. He does have his own terminal in his room, and he immediately goes over to it and he sits down and he starts pulling up um, information on his terminal. And you see him like just rapidly entering things in. Sofan, you catch for a brief second he has put his command codes in, and then his console goes dark, and he just starts sitting there. And then a second later, his head twitches and his eyes flutter, and he just slowly starts coming back. And he's like, "Hello."
Hi.
Hi.
"Can I help you with something?" And as he's talking, you can see little micro expressions pulling up on his face. They're erratic, and his head's twitching ever so slightly just around.
Can you state your name?
B2, Kenneth Montgomery,
Do you know who you are?
Daystrom Institute. No. Starfleet Academy.
Oh, boy.
Incorrect. He's hungry, and he'll stand up and walk over to the replicator. Feline supplement 20. I don't. I'm
Just don't worry.
experiencing.
Take a seat.
Where's the man with the beard?
Well, we have this man with a beard, and I motion at Ryulix.
Commander of the Enterprise.
Uh,
Are you talking about Commander
Shinzon
Riker?
plans to lure the Enterprise with me. No. Where's my brother?
oh boy. Uh,
Is I'll whisper this to Sophanth. Is there a way to turn his model of android off?
if he's the way I've known about, well, again, I'm not really an expert, but command staff briefings did include that if we ever needed to turn Montgomery off for whatever reason, there's a switch on his back. It requires upward force. Yeah, we probably should deactivate him, if only as a humanitarian thing.
I think I'm in agreement with you.
I have to kill Naval. I don't want to.
Okay, we need to turn him off. Yeah.
Okay. So Savanth is going to hand the phaser 3 to Ryulix
Oh boy.
and then slowly approach Montgomery and say, Montgomery, you can do that, but first I need to check something behind you. Can you turn around for me?
He's just gonna tilt his head, and you see that little twitch in his left cheek, and he goes, and then he just smiles. It won't help. I'm fighting a program. It is causing memories. I had a cat, but I don't. I need Bruce. Please. I am scared.
It'll be all right.
How
It'll be all
do
right.
I feel this?
It'll be all right, Montgomery. Just let me do this. We'll figure it all
No.
out.
If I am deactivated, I fear the programming will win. It will kick in. It is trying to override my ethical subroutines. I cannot be deactivated. If I am, I will kill. I have to hide. I have to keep the appearance. Why do I look like this? This is not my face.
So Fanth backs up a little bit, giving them some space, and says, Computer, please erect a level 10 force field around Lieutenant Junior Grade Montgomery.
There's a moment, and then a shimmering force field appears around him.
Computer. Disengage all of my command codes. Do not allow any input from me. Relieve of command.
And the computer says, all command codes for Lieutenant Junior Grade Montgomery have been removed.
All right, so Montgomery, I'm going to let Ryulix work with you here. I'm also going to get the good counselor in here as well. We're going to figure this out, but I need you to stay in that force field until we know that you're safe.
Understood.
And then Sophanth turns around, gives a grimace to Ryulix, and sort of passes him on the way out and says, I will send the counselor and a few more security personnel to come watch him with you. Maybe don't mention this to the other crew just yet, though I have a feeling Scuttlebutt's going to pick up on this very quickly.
My lips are sealed, but I can't say the same for Some of the other CIC officers.
Well, good luck. I've got one hell of a report to make to the captain.
And as you're walking out, he'll hand your Type 3 phaser rifle back to you. He doesn't know how to use those things, so
Now I look him over. Do you have a Type 1 or a Type 2 visible on you?
he would have a Type 2 visible on him.
Okay, then I take the Type 3 as I walk out.
And Ryulix, we'll cover you dealing with Montgomery a little later. We're actually going to jump to the transporter room because materializing on the transporter are Tuzon 8 of 13 and Senator Lana. Remember where we ended up with them last time is Tuzon, you invited her to the ship.
As we energize, I step on down from the pad. Well, Senator, welcome to the Hope.
And it takes her a moment that, and she steps down and she looks around. I've used a transporter before, of course, but this is the first starship I've ever been on. This is quite exciting for me.
Well, I'm happy to be showing you around. We're still getting used to this vessel. We only recently got her.
And Lana walks over to the side of the transporter and sort of pets the shiny blue part of the transporter, and she says, "This is just such an amazing design. Our transporters are crude. I'm assuming we're still in orbit, right? Did we beam further away from the planet?"
Oh no, we are still in orbit.
That's remarkable. Our transporters are such closer range. We have to almost be in contact with other vessels to transport in orbit in this way. It's just beyond our technology. I have so many friends who are engineers who would love to hear about this.
Well, I'm hoping that the establishment of a hospital facility here is the beginning of a working friendship between our two peoples to possibly see about getting you some of this technology. I can't guarantee anything yet, but it's all in the realm of possibility.
It's remarkable. If you have time, I would appreciate a tour of your ship.
Indeed. Follow me and I'll take you. We'll get the highlights of the ship. I'm still
And so,
getting used
Fenth, you
to
would
it
have been
myself.
alerted to the captain coming on board. Would you do anything at this point?
Oh yeah, I would beeline for him because at this point we're dealing with a well, I don't want to call it a diplomatic incident, but it kind of is.
Okay.
We just hear a lot of clipping and clopping coming down in the hall.
It's more like like somebody banging two coconuts together, which I would do, but I don't have any coconuts with me. So
Darn.
And as you come around the corner, so Fenth, you see Senator Lana, who's a youngish Ecamarian, equivalent to early 30s as translated to human years. But as you walk around the corner and you walk into the room, she kind of jumps back very surprised. And she says, "Pardon me, I've never seen anyone of your species before."
And I flash her smile and I say, "That is understandable. The Kentaros are only able to serve on special Starfleet vessels such as this. We tend to have problem with stairs."
And
I can understand
corridor
that.
space.
But Captain, if I may pull you away for what I assume is a tour just for a moment.
Certainly. But first, Senator, this is my first officer, Commander Sofan.
Of course, my apologies, Senator.
She
And
nods and extends you a hand in the human greeting.
I shake it. It's a very firm handshake, though.
For her, it's a little awkward, like she doesn't do this much.
Senator, if you'll excuse me, I need to talk to my first officer here.
And at
And
this
then, yeah,
point, oh, sorry.
I was gonna say we probably like go into the auxiliary room, just like off screen almost, and do stage whispering. But as soon as we can talk, I say, Captain, we have had a further incident involving Mr. Montgomery.
I just like all emotion just drains. What happened?
Well, as a reminder, or perhaps to catch you up to speed, you were aware that we reported a collision earlier, yes?
Yes.
Well, it appears that after the event, Naval said something that triggered a psychotic break within Montgomery. I have Raelix, the counselor, other engineers, and security staff working on the problem right now. But I think we are sort of faced with the possibility that Montgomery has been, for lack of a better term, factory reset.
Interesting. I didn't know that that was possible for an android to have an issue like that.
Nor did I. I'm learning a lot of things about androids that are really starting to make me question things that, as a Starfleet officer, I shouldn't be.
Yes, serving with Montgomery on the Hope, the original Hope. Um, I got to know him, but there's still a lot of his past that we don't know.
Well, I simply wish to bring you up to speed, Captain, in case the situation worsens. My apologies for interrupting your diplomatic tour. Are there any areas you're taking them in particular? I can clear the way ahead of you if you'd like.
We're just going to hit the main attractions of the ship. Standard diplomatic tour.
Very good. I will make sure that those who are around have their shined boots and best uniforms on.
Sounds good.
And
And
you
then
get a chirp on your communicator, Sophant, at that point.
I say, I will take this in another room, Captain. And as I'm walking out, I say, Senator, 8 of 13. And then once I'm outside, I actually tap my comm badge and go, "This is Sophanth, go ahead."
Commander, this is Lieutenant Commander TM on the bridge. We've got Lieutenant Commander Bergen requesting to transport over from the Zukov.
I look around. Send them to transporter room 2. I'm right outside. And I imagine like we've got like the setup where there's like 2 or 3 or maybe even 4 transporter rooms next to each other. So
Yeah.
I'm in the one that's like across the hall.
And while Sophant is handling that, Tuzon and 8, what would you guys do with Cinder and Lana?
I say our first stop is the equivalent of 10 forward.
And she says, fantastic. I would love to see where the crew congregate. That seems great. Please lead the way.
Absolutely. Follow me.
And
8, are you going to stick with them or go off and do your thing?
I think 8's just gonna go off and do her thing. She probably would she have heard? No, she wouldn't have heard any of that stuff about Montgomery. She'll just check in with TM and see what needs done.
Okay. So I'm going to move the 3 of you out and have Sophanth back in the adjacent transporter room. This session, everybody just hangs out in the transporter room.
Mm-hmm.
Sophanth, the moment passes, and materializing on the transporter pad is Lieutenant Commander Jane Bergen. A little history about Bergen. You and she served together on the Glasgow, and as she materializes, you get a good look at her. She doesn't look good. Her uniform is blackened. There's some burns and some tears. She's got some scratches on her face, and some of that smearing of dirt and everything. But what really catches your glance is that she looks like she's aged tremendously. It's probably only been a few years since you guys served together, but she looks 10 years older since you saw her last. Her eyes are bloodshot, like she hasn't really slept much. And she materializes and immediately smiles when she sees you.
Tell me, were we on a first name basis, or can I define that myself?
I'll leave that up to you. You guys would have, I would imagine you would have. I think you said you were on Gamma Shift.
Mm-hmm.
I think you would have served together, so probably.
Then I step forward and I say, "Jane, it's good to see you. Is everything all right? Should I have a doctor come up?"
And she actually hugs you.
Oh, this okay. I do that sort of awkward thing where I hug back, but it's very light.
She says, Sofeth, it's so good to see you.
You look like hell, Jane. What the hell happened?
It's been hell.
Well, tell you what, let's discuss this a little bit more thematic than a transporter room. 10 forward, maybe?
That would be great. The replicators on the Zukov have been down for a while. We've just been eating rations. It's been a while.
I see. And I sort of look you over. Do you need to step in a refresher? I could have a fresh uniform for you.
That would be wonderful.
Right, this way then. And my intention is to basically get her to, if I have to bring her to my quarters, I will. But basically, stop along the way, get her a fresh uniform, get her a sonic shower, get her looking at least semi-presentable, and then probably showing up in 10 forward either as the captain's group is leaving or probably towards the end of their conversation.
Okay. While that's happening, we're going to move back to Monty's quarters.
Monty's standing there. If he'll just twitch and start muttering to himself slightly, you'd hear him mentioning things about Thaleron radiation, helping in the bar, and then some talk about getting revenge, and it just jumps back and forth. Like every time he's talking, his tone of voice shifts around just ever so slightly, and he starts looking to either the left or the right, like he's adopting these different tones, matching his head movements.
It's at this point I wish I knew how androids worked.
He's just gonna look up at you for a moment and tilt his head. Who are you?
My name is Lieutenant Commander Ra Yalix. I'm the chief engineer on this ship.
Ship. I'm on a ship. Computer. He'll just look around for a moment. I disabled vocal commands for myself. And he'll look to Helix and he'll say computer game, but he'll say it in Relix's voice.
And there's the chime of the computer awaiting voice command.
Good. And he'll simply ask, is there a command lockout on this force field?
And the computer replies that the force field requires command level authorization.
And he'll just look at Riley. He looks like, I don't know you. And his voice will slowly modulate back to what Monty's voice is. I need to get out of here. Lower the force field.
Quite frankly, Lieutenant, I'm not doing that. And he's going to take out his engineering tricorder and just run a quick scan of the lieutenant and see if he can figure out any remote thing about what might be wrong.
Let's do an engineering reason difficulty 2.
Okay.
And that's already accounted for your engineering tricorder, reducing the difficulty.
Okay. I don't think I have anything focus-wise. The only thing I could maybe think of is either maintenance or power systems and maybe experimental technology, but that's all I have.
I think that would cover it.
Okay. I will give you, hold on. Looking at my, I shall give you a threat for a third die. Boop. Okay, so that's 3 successes.
That is one more than you needed.
Can I
So
say
you
what
can-
the issue is?
Yeah, go ahead.
The tricorder reads that his positronic brain is operating well above what it should be. Like even for under load, is operating an extra 60 some odd percent higher than what it should be. And on account of him just being trapped like this, it's slowly rising. Like you're watching it, it goes like 163, 164. Essentially, he's gonna burn out. And he's just
Okay.
looking at it like, let me out. If I have to break out, I'm going through you. I need to get to maintenance.
I'm going to. This is going to be interesting because I want to use one of my species talents. I'm going to spend a momentum on obtain information,
Okay.
and then because of my talent of oral scholar, I get a question for free since the tasks used reason. First question is, what would be the easiest way to essentially get an android's positronic brain back to normal, to, to its normal functioning range?
Shizna, do you want to take that one?
You'd have to find what program's causing this, because basically it's like a memory leak essentially. Whatever program's running, it's intermixed with his own personality, his own being. It's running and it's taking more and more resources because he's fighting it. But basically, think of it like two Hulks fighting each other, and one Hulk is getting bigger and bigger the angrier he gets. That's essentially what's happening in his mind.
Okay. And I guess the
Yeah.
second question would be, can I discern which program is doing this?
I'd say it's a multitude of programs. It's co-opting other processes to attack Montgomery's ethical program. And so your tricorder is reading like it's using everything to try and get at his ethical, and he is doing everything he can to keep it safe. But it's
Gotcha.
causing, you're noticing mild cascades, which would be similar to someone having micro seizures. If you had any scientific, it'd be equivalent to someone suffering a rapid case of dementia.
Gotcha. How, if they've gotten here yet, how many other like engineering and security officers are here?
I think the two that Sofent assigned would be outside the door. Let's say McGannis and Danik. They're my two
Okay.
whipping boy security officers. So yeah, they're outside the door.
And Monty, you still have your comm badge on, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Lieutenant Commander Raye looks to uh Chief Petty Officer Brown.
Is Brown an engineer?
Yeah, I just made him up.
Cool. A moment passes and Brown says, "Oh, hey Chief, we're dealing with this mess down in the hangar. Are you gonna be down here soon?"
Yes, but if we don't have any transporter operators right now, I need you to do it. I need you to transport Lieutenant Junior Grade Montgomery to maintenance, and as soon as he's there, I need a level 10 force field put up around him.
Oh, okay. I can do that. Sure, let me get to a console here. Get my way out of this stinking bomber. One moment. Just a moment, sir. And the
Yep.
communication cuts off.
And he'll kind of go out the door quickly to McGannis and Danik. You two get down to maintenance now.
And they both take off. And then just a
Lieutenant
few moments.
Montgomery, you're going there, but it's under my rules.
For a brief moment, it looks like he's about to say something, but then he just starts smiling. Where's my brother?
Don't know. Quite frankly, right now, don't care. We're figuring out what's wrong with you. And he's going to wait for Monty to be transported before he leaves.
And it doesn't take too much longer. And Montgomery, you dematerialize and beam down to the maintenance bay. I won't make you guys do a roll. I'm assuming Mr. Brown is good at what he's doing here.
Yeah.
So then you find yourself alone, Royalix, and Montgomery's quarters.
As you look around, Rolex, you do see a
Yeah.
picture of him smiling on the little coffee table there, and he has his arms around two friends, or two people, I should say. One is a Vulcan male, and the other one is, it looks like a Bajoran, and he has his arms around them, and yeah, he looks happy. And this is him from the academy, like they're in the academy uniforms.
Interesting. He'll kind of pick up the picture. Computer.
There's the chime of the computer.
Can you give me the status of one? What I would know Montgomery's first name, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Can you pull up a record on a Lieutenant Junior Grade Kenneth Montgomery for me?
And the display somewhere in the quarters activates, and you see Montgomery's service record.
He's looking through it. Is there anything that would indicate not necessarily like a death date in his service record per se, but like maybe a time where his service record kind of has some weird amount of time and space between certain things happening?
Yeah, give me a security insight difficulty. Let's say difficulty of 4.
Oh boy.
Now remember, every threat we give him goes towards those
I know.
Klingons.
I'm sitting at 10 threat currently, just so you know.
I know.
Yeah, I can see it. The joys of being an engineer and trying to figure this stuff out. Yeah, I mean, nah, I'm not gonna bother giving you threat because my insight's security is hot garbage. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's not enough.
Yeah.
But just at a cursory glance, things look fine. You know, there might be more information, but it would take a while to go through it. Like, there's a lot here. Imagine a person's record for the years that Montgomery came into the system and his time at the academy and then his time in service. It's a lot to go through, and nothing jumps out at you.
Does he have any direct family members, brother specifically?
The only thing listed is, of course, the connection with Bruce Maddox, who, you know, head of the Daystrom Institute, obviously head of robotics and everything. There's a connection for him, but there's no entry for the people that are on that photo. There is no record of any sort of connection to them as far as a relationship for family.
That's interesting. Okay. Yeah, after looking at that stuff, he's just gonna head down to maintenance.
And Raw Yelix, we're actually going to wait a sec to come back to you, and we're going to move to the hallway of the Hope. And some time has passed. Sophant, you've gotten Lieutenant Commander Bergen cleaned up, and you guys are headed to the mess hall. And just as magically happens in Star Trek, with a fresh new uniform and a shower, she looks 100% better. Still looks very aged. You know, she's definitely carrying the lines of stress about her still. But just magically was able to transform with just a shower very quickly. As the two of you are walking down the hallway towards the mess hall, she begins to engage in conversation with you. Again, she says, Sophant, The Fifth Fleet has just been taking a pounding.
Well, from the reports I've seen, unfortunately, it's understandable. They have what, a bunch of sabers and Norways against Negvars?
We've been trying everything. We saw the early detection grids at the border didn't pick up any Klingon activity, and then all of a sudden there were Klingons all around us. The Allegiance was destroyed, Admiral Mendez's ship, in the first volley, and since then we've been trying to figure out how to track the bastards. Tachyon detection grids, nothing has worked. That our engineers are calling it a perfect cloak.
Which is odd because, when was the last time you heard of a Klingon scientist?
I don't know. It's the damnedest thing, though. We try to change our formations to protect the weakest vessels, and then they come out of nowhere and attack our lead ships. We have no strategy against this kind of attack.
I'm assuming the Zukov still has logs of the ship's decloaking and recloaking.
Yeah, our main computer's damaged, but for what we have, yeah, it's there. For what good it will do, maybe you could make more of it. We haven't really had time to plan. It's just been, we don't even know when the attacks are going to come, so I've had to keep all of my duty shifts just waiting for combat and try to rotate them for just a few hours of sleep. We've been at constant combat awareness for days on end. To say that we are reaching our breaking point would be just putting it lightly.
Well, the good news is that you're here now, and we're going to make sure that you and your crew get the R&R you need. And while you do so, I will take a look at those logs and see if I can find any solution.
Thank you. I don't know how we're going to come out of this. Captain Tushon, he's the senior most captain now. He's had some creative ideas, but I just don't see how we can continue in a fight like this.
Well, as long as those crazy ideas don't involve opening portals to fluidic space, I think we'll be okay.
At this point, I think we'd be open to any suggestions.
I think about saying that wasn't really a joke, but I think Sofanth catches the mood and says, "Well, let's get you something a little bit more happy. You still like chocolate ice cream sundaes?"
I would give you my firstborn for a chocolate ice cream sundae.
Keep your firstborn. I prefer the thirdborn. Yeah, let's get you that sundae. I know that the replicators in 10 Forward make a mean sundae.
And before you guys make it to the lounge, we are going to transition to the lounge with Tuzon and Lana. So the lounge has been mostly deserted. Everyone has tasks to complete. Tuzon. And then outside the forward view of the ship, the expansive windows, you can see Akamar 3, and then also alongside you can see the very damaged USS Zukov. Lana immediately asks you questions about that ship. She says, Commander, why is that vessel damaged? It doesn't look very good.
One of many, unfortunately. That's the USS Zukov. She's transporting really the first wave of injured from the front lines. Unfortunately, where you guys sit, we are sitting between two sides of the front, two parts of the front. Two fleets sit relatively close to where we currently are, which is why I've been tasked to come and see if we can get a hospital somewhere in the system to relieve the front lines. There's so many injured coming in that we can't transport them fast enough. The Zukov brought the most injured in. The Hope here that you are standing on has some of the best sick bays, hospital wards on a ship in the entirety of Starfleet. The Hope's previous rendition, before we got this, the version A, was a hospital ship outright. I served as its chief medical officer before kind of being thrust into the line of being the captain.
Well, Commander, even though I'm the leader of the Ascension Party on my world, it's still a minor party. The Sovereign still has control. As I mentioned before, I have some ideas how we could change that if you can't wait till the election. It sounds as though your need is great. I have many ideas to
Extremely.
build a hospital that you're mentioning. I just don't have the authority to make that happen yet.
In my talking with the Sovereign before running into you, he mentioned a problem with a member of, I'm going to call it a cult, for lack of a better word, that's been causing issues, that is living on one of the other planets here in the system.
That would be Gunther. Gunther he's a member of an old faction. They were called the Gatherers many years ago. They've been folded back into main society, but Gunther represents a fractional unit of the Gatherers who prefers to live out on the frontier of Akamar 5 and is a thorn in the side of the Sovereign. To be honest, he just makes the Sovereign look bad regularly. I don't exactly have a problem with that, but he is labeled as a criminal. He has engaged in piracy and the like, so it doesn't surprise me that the Sovereign spoke to you about him. Gunther has cost the Sovereign quite a bit in political capital.
Which would explain why the Sovereign wants us to take care of such a problem before he will put his political might behind a hospital in helping the Federation.
Well, the Sovereign has pledged for years to capture Gunther and put him in prison. Of course, his failure to do that makes him continuously look incapable as a ruler. So I could see him leveraging the capture of Gunther as a way to further cement his position as sovereign on my planet.
Kind of my thoughts. We don't, as outside influencers, we don't want to influence the path that the Akamarians should take when it comes to political processes. And I feel like capturing Gunther, although it would get a hospital that we need, it would also give the Sovereign politically what he needs, which would not be necessarily in the best interest of all parties.
Well, Commander, you may not know, but as the head of the Ascension Party on my world, I am dedicated to expanding the reach of the Akamarian people. I believe it's our duty to join the galactic community, as it were. And I believe a relationship with the Federation, especially creating the hospital that you've planned, would line up very well with the aspirations of my party and for the future of my people. Of course, if you would back me, that would go a long way in the election, but that is an election that will happen next year.
Well, we could potentially do that again. We have to officially stay neutral, but if you could kind of see what kind of political might you have. I offered this to the Sovereign and he didn't seem to necessarily care when I said, we have the technology to help you guys set up a weather net, make some of the most unhospitable land on the planet hospitable and flourishing. We could, and that's, you guys have the technology. It'd be just tweaking what you already have, or maybe assisting in the development of the last final components to make a weather net or a climate control system. But we could help you guys expand on your planet without taking Gunther, which I'm not necessarily keen on.
Well, Commander, you don't have to sell me on a relationship with the Federation. I'm already on board, and even offering this weather net further cements my belief that it is the right move for my people. Unfortunately, I'm just not in the position to make that decision. My suggestion before about ways to remove the Sovereign that suggestion is still valid. I understand your reservations for interfering in a culture. However, I am a elected representative of a portion of my people.
That is very true. Although I would like to see this be a political movement that seems like uh, the rest of the Senate is getting on board, which is one reason why I wanted to show you around the ship and see what we are capable of. But if you could introduce the idea to some of your colleagues or on the Senate floor, I could speak to the plan. Basically, call me as a witness in a trial on the floor of the Senate. Tell them what our intentions are, tell them what we are capable of doing, and with a friendship.
I would be happy to do that, Commander. However, I ask that you consider my offer, and she hands you a pad. And the pad that she hands you looks like protocol for breaking into a computer system. Like she's telling you like how to access it, and then files, and then she actually has a file on her pad that she wants you to plant into the computer system.
Sabotage. In a way.
Just consider, Commander, the Sovereign has been, well, he's been a part of many scandals on my world, but he's never been implicated because he's always managed to skirt his way around our laws by paying the right person, manipulating the system in the right way. I believe if we just, say we coax the evidence a little bit for some of those past conspiracies, not accusing him of anything he hasn't done, but just providing the ways to actually prove it without a doubt, that honestly I could get the Sovereign removed by a vote of no confidence fairly quickly, which would trigger an immediate election. And I believe with everything you're offering that it would be very easy to secure the position of Sovereign for myself and my party.
Let me see what we can do. I don't want to get too involved, but considering that we have you on our side, a random data leak to state media has been known to happen.
And I can understand the reservation of getting involved. However, it is removing one man who has been, as I said, a part of many problems in my world. Immediately, I know that we could secure the hospital that you're looking for, and then the relationship with the Federation could be a long-term and beneficial one for all of us. I could even see the future of my world requesting membership in the Federation to begin with.
That would be a great eventual step. As a member of the Federation, you do get access to a lot of things, although nothing that you're not necessarily not able to access now, just adds a little bit more complications.
And at about this time, Sophenth, I'm going to put you in with Bergen. The two of you walk in, and you see in the corner, in conversation, it looks pretty serious, Tuzan and Lana.
All right. Well, I'm not going to disturb the captain. I'm simply going to walk Jane up to the bar, flag down the bartender, who I like to think is probably the emergency bartender hologram, because I found that character amusing as hell. And I say, bartender, I have a beverage.
And the EBH materializes. He says, please state the nature of your beverage emergency.
My friend Jane here needs a chocolate shake, a chocolate sundae, and get her a turkey sandwich for good measure, too.
Very well. I will operate the replicator, which everyone has deemed is the best use of my programming. And he literally turns around and walks not even a foot to the replicator and repeats the thing that you just said. And then the food stuff begins to materialize, and he starts passing it over. And Jane begins to very voraciously dive into the sundae.
By the way, bartender, have you ever thought about expanding your programming?
I've thought of many things in the intervals where people forget to deactivate my program.
I just sort of stare at him like one of those like, I wonder what could happen if I did this type thing. And I say, what if I gave you the ability to turn yourself off?
If you gave me the ability to turn myself off, I wouldn't be in this conversation.
But you would still do your function, correct?
I don't know.
Let's find out. Computer, give the emergency bartender hologram access to turn off his own program.
And the computer replies, access to the EBH has been granted. And then he
And I
kind of
just
looks
sort of
around.
smile at him and I say, don't abuse it. Otherwise, I'll take it away.
And he looks around and deactivates himself.
And I just sort of look at Jane and make small talk with her while Tuzan is continuing his conversation.
And she says, it's very possible you've just created a killer artificial intelligence aboard your ship, you know.
Yeah, see, the ironic thing about that is that might not even be the first one.
Well, that sounds exciting. And she looks over to Tuzan and Lana. What's all that about?
Well, I don't know the full situation, but the captain there is meeting with one of the quote unquote premier powers of the planet below. Apparently, there's some political game that they're running. Again, I don't really know the specifics of it, but I honestly would not be surprised if, from what I know of the situation, if one of the three powers or all of them decided to try and use this opportunity to get us to further their agenda and thus breaking the Prime Directive.
And she says through a mouthful of Sunday, well, I hope it takes a while because I don't mind sitting here and taking a break.
Well, Jane, take all the time you need. If you actually want guest quarters, I can go requisition those for you. Same goes for any member of your staff that you deem necessary. Of course, we don't have enough quarters for all of your crew, but we can at least maybe hot bunk until everybody at least gets a good night's rest.
I guess at some point I should check on the repairs of the Zukov. Do you have an officer I can coordinate with?
Yes, Mr. Ra Yilix.
Oh, and I meant to ask, how are the pilots on your rescue mission? That looked kind of messy.
Let's just say that comment about the killer artificial intelligence I made earlier, that's related.
Great. Well, we were happy to track to them back. That's one of the things that's actually working on the Zukov, believe it or not, the tractor beam.
I just sort of think about that for a moment. I say, well, I will leave you to your Sunday, Jane. I apparently need to go deal with a killer android.
And she smiles and nods and turns and says, EBH. And it doesn't appear.
I pause on my way out and turn around and says, EBH, do your job.
And it does not appear.
Great. I go behind the bar and I say, what do you want, Jane? I can operate a replicator, pretty sure.
I would like a rise and sunrise, please.
Rise and Sun. Oh, is that the one where you flick it and the orange swirl? I think I can do that. Hold on. And I just start bringing up bottle after bottle after bottle. And I pour something. I don't know if you want me to roll for it, but I pour something and I go, ting. And it turns blue instead of orange. And I go, I think it's all right.
You know, since you mentioned it, it does kind of please me to have you roll this. Let's do a command control difficulty of 2.
Okay.
But because I got 10th right here, I'm going to make the complication range an 18 to 20.
Somehow I doubt that my focus is in temporal mechanics or Wadi culture. are going to help me here, but let's see what happens.
I'm gonna say your focus in temporal mechanics does apply, which will go into if you fail, some fun that I might have.
Oh.
I've secretly created the Matic drink where you drink it and go back 5 years.
You gave me all of the ideas here. Hey, okay,
Well, I actually got 3 successes, so hey, momentum.
when you create the drink, it is a marvelous concoction. So as you pour the last component in, what happens is there's like a cloud of smoke that comes up, and then it looks like a little sun rising over the cloud, which is some sort of chemical reaction going on. And Jane like puts down her spoon and claps, and she's like, "Ah, that is probably the most perfect rise and sunrise I've ever seen."
I was just following the little thing they've got behind the bar. Cool. I can do that now. That's interesting.
Senator Lana actually walks over to the bar. Tuzan, she's walked past you as she hears the commotion, and she looks over and she says, "Pardon me, but I have to ask, what is that?"
That is a rise and sunrise.
And she says, "That looks kind of amazing. Is there any way you can make me one?"
One moment. Captain, do we know if the good senator can consume our alcohol, our liquor?
You know, that's something that I've never thought of looking, but considering that their anatomy is extremely similar to most of our humanoids, I don't see why we can't. We'll call it a medical judgment.
As you wish, sir. And I make another one.
I don't think I'll make you roll for that. I think you could probably figure it out by now.
Yeah, I'm literally noting on my my other equipment is I can make sunrises now.
Abilities and attributes.
And
Mm,
as we close up the scene, everybody is having a great time sitting here at the bar. And it seems prudent that we move to engineering at this point.
Yeah, we just might have a killer android on the ship. It's fine.
mm-hmm.
So Ryelix, as you make your way into the Hope engine room, you notice ahead of you that main engineering of the Hope, they pretty much the Typhon class, they ripped off a lot of systems from the Galaxy class, including the warp core. So as you walk around the corner, you notice the large Galaxy class warp core humming softly. Off in the corner is Lieutenant Loggins. He's bobbing his head, listening to something. You can't quite hear it, but there's some music echoing down the hallway. You can't really make out exactly what it is. But in the maintenance room, the workshop is Lieutenant Montgomery. He has the force field around the entire room. So there's really not much he can do, but you can see through the window into that room. And then the security personnel are also there.
Lieutenant Montgomery, what exactly do you need if you're going to do what you're about to do?
Maker's room is full of equipment, right?
I think because Ryelix put the force field around you, Montgomery, you don't have access to anything yet.
Yeah, he's taking precautions.
He's just gonna like touch one of the wall panels where equipment would be, and he just feels the force field, and he's just like, I need to access some functions of my positronic brain.
I mean, me and some other engineering officers can just do that for you, right?
Do you know positronic brains at all?
I have extremely basic knowledge.
Then why would I let a child attempt to help me?
For all cases, sir, I am your superior, so I will not be called a child. And Lieutenant Commander Ryelix to Loggins.
ELH, would you like to take Loggins?
I can take Loggins. This is Loggins. Go ahead.
What do you know about positronic brains, Lieutenant?
And I literally just sort of walk around the corner of engineering and go, well, I know that they are quite a mess to deal with. Oh, Montgomery is here. Well, that's interesting.
To make a long story short, apparently multiple programs in his positronic brain are attempting to override his ethical protocol. And we need to essentially do brain surgery.
Loggins just looks at you for a moment, scratches his head, scratches his beard. Sir, do you ever wonder why we put the maintenance room so close to the warp core?
No, but she's a beautiful ship anyway.
Well, let's just say I have my misgivings about doing anything to Montgomery, and there is a noticeable hesitation there. Doing anything to Montgomery that could potentially cascade back to the reactor.
And I'm in agreement with that, and he'll kind of lean in, he'll whisper this. Between you and me, I'm not quite sure I trust him to be using Starfleet equipment in the manner he's acting right now.
As long as we're on the same page.
Um, we'll figure something out. Um, and he'll tap his comm badge. Lieutenant Commander Ra Yalix to Captain Tuzon.
This is Tuzon.
So I assume that you've been informed of a little bit of our situation about Montgomery, correct?
I'll walk away from the bar and turn forward. Yes, I have.
Okay, so from what I've been able to discern, there are multiple programs that are trying to override his ethical protocol, and we essentially need to do, and you'll probably hear the air quotes, brain surgery on his positronic brain. He says he wants to do it himself, but quite frankly, sir, given the situation that back in his quarters, he, to put it lightly, threatened me if I didn't let him out of the force field. I'm not sure I trust him to use Starfleet equipment, especially so close to a warp core. We're in maintenance right now.
That's understandable. Let me think, Lieutenant Commander. Well, does anybody there have any experience with positronic brains?
As far as I looking over the engineering roster,
And Rayelix, it comes up oddly when you type in like positronic training.
yeah.
Mr. Finley, Dr. Finley's record pops up. Apparently, he has some training in positronic networks.
Huh. That's interesting.
What, Commander?
Did you know that Dr. Finley had some experience with this?
If there wasn't any engineer, I was going to suggest you contact him. Seems to be the one that knows how to get Montgomery to tick correctly. He's done maintenance work on him in the past, at least reports I've gotten.
I see. I'll get in touch with him. And he'll cut off the communication, tap his comm badge again.
I'm just
This
going to
is-
interrupt here. As this is taking time, Monty is going to put his hand against the force field, and he's going to attempt to force his hand through to grab at the drawer.
McGinnis, Danik,
McGinnis looks at you. What do you want me to do, Commander?
prepare to... Hold on. Ra looks to the captain.
Yes, Commander.
Do I have permission to allow these security officers to fire at Montgomery if he tries to force his way into using some equipment?
You know, you could just close the door.
He's around a force field. He's in a force field. He's trying to force his way through.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Lieutenant Montgomery,
I'm not sure he'll recognize you, Captain.
Yeah, he's doing little twitches still. Need access. I don't fighting straining.
Lieutenant, we're getting Dr. Finley down there as soon as possible. He's going to take a look at you.
Commander
Now,
Raw, Alcock Communications. Commander Raw Yalix to Dr. Fenley. Get to maintenance now.
Of course. I'll be down there in just a minute. I'm sitting actually on the toilet. If you can give me a moment.
I don't care. Get
Nope.
here quick.
All right. I'll be there in just a moment. I should. Well, okay. If you said it's emergency, I will be down immediately. Do you mean the maintenance room that's by the bridge?
No, the one that's by our warp core.
Of course. Oh, I will be there momentarily. And the comm line is still open. And he says, excuse me. And obviously he's leaving on as he's walking down the hallway. Excuse me, my young fellow. Can you tell me where the maintenance room is by the warp core? Engineering. Of course. Which deck is that on? And which deck are we on now?
have you guys seen Endgame? You know
Of
the
course.
scene where Nebula's like putting her hand to that force field, is like melting away the like most of the robotics there. I imagine what he's trying to do with the force field, it's literally stripping the flesh off his hands.
Fun.
Well, that sounds fun. Let's do a roll then. Let's do, I guess it's security daring for this. I can't imagine that's in the rules anywhere. Let's do a security daring difficulty 4, because I imagine these force fields are pretty tough. If you fail, it's probably gonna be lethal damage if it's melting stuff off you.
No, I imagine it's just a skin layer. Yeah, you know what? I will use determination.
Oh,
Uh-oh.
boy.
Getting serious now.
Yep. Let's see. Always the outsider. There's no such thing as the unknown, only the temporarily hidden. I wear a face of many emotions, but understand none of them, or I understand machines better than people.
How about this? I will give you that determination for free, so you'll still have your one that you start with. If you let me create a complication here with understanding machines better than people.
Okay.
That complication range is going to be, or that complication that comes from that is, Ryelix, he is actually, so what happens is as he reaches his hand through the force field, which we'll do the roll in a second, but I wanted to describe the complication first. Ryelix, as he's doing that, the force field is compensating, but it's pulling a lot of power from the ship to do that, because this is kind of like an auto correction system, and it's a little dangerous next to, you know, these same systems that have to deal with like antimatter containment.
What kind of weapons do McGannis and Danik have on them? I assume phaser rifles.
I think Sofan said, yeah, phaser 3s.
Okay.
But
Finley,
yeah, Kenneth,
what's your status?
and Finley, he's still saying, I will be there shortly. I'm hurrying as quickly as I can.
McGannis,
Montgomery-
Danik, prepare to fire.
And McGannis, he readies his rifle, but Montgomery, let's see how successful you are. That's, I think I said security daring difficulty 4, and you've already got 2 successes with determination if you want to spend it that way, or save it for the reroll. Of course, you could do that.
Yeah, I'll do the auto success for the termination there that you gave me.
Cool.
And I'm taking that momentum for an extra dice.
It's getting serious.
Well, it'd be a momentum and a threat.
No.
Oh yeah, it would be, yeah. Would hand-to-hand be a focus?
I
Oh,
think so.
boy.
Yeah, I'll give you a focus there. You're literally reaching your hand through a force field.
Holy cats!
That's 2 momentum, I believe.
Yep.
Ryelix, as Montgomery reaches his hand through the force field, you see there's some smoke as it's burning off the top part of his, I forget what they called it, his skin layer, essentially, revealing just the robotics beneath it. And as he's doing that, there is a small alarm that chirms, and it says, warning, force field capacity 120% and rising.
And with that breach in the force field, I am pushing myself through that.
I think with the successes you managed to pull off, that you've achieved that. You've moved yourself to the force field, and at that moment, you see Dr. Finley walking down the hallway. He seemed to have forgotten his pants as he was making his move from the bathroom. He's just in his underwear, and he's running down the hallway. And he says, is there a maintenance room here? Is this engineering?
He just points to the door. Alex just points to the door that he's standing right in front of.
Oh dear. My good boy, you seem to have damaged your hand.
I assume that's when he kind of like walks in and is talking to Montgomery, or is he talking to Alex?
He noticed Montgomery through the glass, I guess, in the maintenance room, and he's saying that to Montgomery. He's sort of ignoring you, Alex.
Okay.
Monty's gonna, as Finn was walking down, he's opening up the door to pull out one of the diagnostic cables that you would always see data, hooked up to this computer system. And he's pulling that out, and he's immediately tapping the side of his neck to open up a port, and he's plugging it in and looking at a display. And he's not caring at the force fields to hurting him.
And Finley
He's
says
watching.
Finley begins the section of the diagnostic mode conversation, and he says, has anyone ever locked you out of a room? But Montgomery, that's a strange question. You feel no inclination to reply unless you want to.
He's just gonna look at him for a second. It's like, it's wrong. The Foundation is corrupt.
Oh dear. That is terrible.
And on the screen, he's pulling up. What you can see is all the programs running. You got programs of how his social interactions with people is dictated, how he responds to hostilities, compliments, neutral questions, how he should be blinking, how his pulse should be reading if someone were to check for that, how his breathing pattern should be if he's exerting himself. Everything that gives him the appearance of being a person is running, and it is just more and more of his positronic matrix is being dedicated to all of this, and he's trying to isolate what's him. He's just tapping on the console. Please lower this force field. It is difficult to maintain focus.
Dr. Finley, you have experience with positronic brains, right?
Yes, I do, and particularly this one, in fact. I can't exactly say what's going on, but I have a theory. It's not a very good theory.
He'll show Finley the readings that on his engineering tricorder when he made the scan earlier.
Yes, I'd hoped this would not happen. Apparently his matrix is collapsing.
Would
Dr. Maddox,
turning him off be a viable option here?
well, yes, I believe that would turn him off. He's in a bad state. I think you'd actually have to do a mechanical shutdown at this point to shut down his entire memory system. The problem is the memory immigrant that he received was, I believe, probably rushed, and so therefore has copied over in some bad sectors and creating a fault in his programming. I noticed an anomaly before, but it seems to have gotten progressively worse. Let me ask you this. Has he gone into a murderous rampage yet?
No, but he made a threat against me if I didn't let him out of the force field, and quite frankly, Doctor, I'm not quite sure I trust him even with that, pointing to the diagnostic cable that he's plugged into his neck port.
Well, That's good. Of course, on the Android checklist, the first step is, has your Android murdered anyone? We can successfully check that one off. And
So,
Danik,
professional opinion, should we turn him off?
Danik moves forward. Commander, am I still shooting him?
He looks over to Fenley as if to ask him, since he doesn't know much about the internal workings of androids. Should I let him do it?
Well, to be honest, Commander, we're in unknown territory at this point. I can't exactly know what's going on with Mr. Montgomery and his complex brain. I would imagine he's having what, if he were human, I'd say he's having a breakdown. Powering him down wouldn't be the worst idea. He might be trying to work this out himself, or he could be mad and be prepared to kill us in any moment. It's hard to say. The next few minutes will be quite exciting, though, as we find out what will happen.
You're a strange doctor, Fenley. And yeah, there's a lot of power being drawn to this force field at this point, right?
Yeah, Loggins, as you're inching away, you do notice that the force field power requirements are just going up and up. And the system asks you a prompt. Would you like to lower the containment force fields in order to draw more power?
You mean around the warp core?
Around the antimatter containment pods, yeah. Would you like to start taking power from those?
That's not happening. But while Loggins is inching away to a console just out of view, he is going to start pulling power from weapons because we don't need those right now. Famous last words.
I was going to say, as I've sent back the alert saying there's Klingons in the area.
And then I spend my 9 threat and bring in a Borg cube.
Well, you could actually bring in 3 birds of prey, or a Negvar and a bird of prey, or...
Stop that.
And Loggins, as you take the weapons offline, you've found a way to get the force field in the room more power.
Do you...
Could I actually make a roll that if it's successful, that it will last for... Basically, so if the force field getting power will last for 1 unit of time, I want to see if I can make it last for, say, 3 units of time instead.
Yeah, we can do that. I will up the complication range, and the complication range you will know is that will be if you succeed, you'll do that. The complication if you fail will mean that while you may not have actually gotten the power to the force field you were looking for, you might be doing more damage to Montgomery in the process.
I think that's fair. I think Loggins doesn't really know what's going on with Montgomery. Like, if it was Sofant, she'd think differently. But Loggins, I think is just concerned with keeping that force field up. So I think that's fair.
Oh, let's do for Loggins. Let's do an engineering control.
Daring.
I'll take daring. Sure, engineering daring, difficulty 2. I spent 2 threat before to make that complication range an 18 to 20. It'll have the complication I talked about before, where you're basically gonna be frying Montgomery. But I'm gonna spend some more threat to make it a difficulty 3.
Well, the good news is that he has power systems as a focus.
Sounds good.
But this is technically an activation, so if I were to take I Know My Ship, would that apply as a talent?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, because I believe that either gives me the additional die or it reduces the difficulty. I forget which it is.
I think it gives you a dice, a free third dice.
Yep.
All right, let's go with that then. So I'm rolling 3 dice. The complication range is a 3. I have a focus. Yeah, let's see what happens. Hey, 4 successes, which means you get a momentum.
So you've pulled the power from the phasers. You now have strong containment on the antimatter, and you also have a nice reserve of power that you can feed to, the force field in the maintenance bay or somewhere else. So this is going to cause you problems, Montgomery. What would you like to start doing in the control that you have, and then we will deal with what Loggins just did after that.
He's going to start going through his Puzzle Matrix and he's just running through what he can as fast as he can. And when he hears Finley talking, and Roy Elix, he's just gonna look back, and he's like, B1 suffered failure after constant testing. B2, or referred to as to be or not to be. You uploaded patterns of individuals, lol, B4, data, lore, as pathways, foundations. Pinocchio is a lie. Why is it attacking?
And would Elix know what the Pinocchio protocol stuff is, or no?
I don't think he would.
No.
He looks over at Finley like, do you know what the hell that is?
And Finley looks up, what again? What are we talking about?
The Pinocchio protocol coding, I don't know what the hell it is.
Oh, yeah, yes. That's a program that Dr. Maddox was working on to try to give Mr. Montgomery more human-like appearances and personality. It's my opinion that, well, I think what went wrong with Mr. Montgomery is perhaps he tried to copy the memory engrams for Montgomery's fake history at Starfleet Academy, perhaps tried to copy them too quickly and created some kind of problem. But that's just a theory. I would need to actually get in there and start scanning his programming to know.
Well, then you should probably do that. We have more power to the force fields, but we don't know how long it's going to hold up.
So I have a fun thing I want to do.
Okay.
When more power gets to the force fields, he's just gonna drop. That cord's gonna pull out of his neck, not like a detached possible way that it just gets ripped out. And he's gonna stop twitching, and you guys just hear him whistling. Pop goes the weasel. And he's slowly gonna stand back up, and he's gonna look at his hand, his other hand, and he's gonna look around. Well, isn't this interesting? A new body. What have you naughty Federation types been up to?
Would I know anything about the interactions with Starfleet and lore? Or no?
I can't remember if that was confidential or not. I'll let you decide if that's something that Roy Elix would have been interested in and researched if it was available.
Okay. I'd say he'd probably have a very basic knowledge after the synth attack on Mars. Is this... Are we speaking to lore?
Wow, you're catching on. Congratulations. I'm guessing you might be the smart one of this group.
I'm the ship's chief engineer. It's kind of my job to know.
Well, you're a bit slow in the uptake, aren't you?
I'm
He's
not
just gonna
sure.
tap the force field. Like, this won't hold me for long.
Quite remarkable, Commander. We seem to have shattered his psyche.
So, what do you think is our next course of action, Doctor?
Well, let's see. I would recommend well, I guess the best thing to do is to power him down and wipe his memory and start over, I suppose.
With what I know about this individual we're speaking to, that's gonna be a bit of a problem.
Oh, come on. You can't be that afraid of me, can you?
Considering what I've read up on you, lore, I wouldn't necessarily say I'm afraid, but you are certainly a complicated individual.
Oh, you Federation types. You know, I may have been deactivated after that incident with my brother and him taking away my little army of Borg, but I knew that someone within the Federation couldn't resist examining me. I knew that someday I'm going to be either activated or copied, or maybe even try to be reprogrammed. So I took precautions. If anyone were to scan my neural net and put it into a positronic brain as a foundation or a building block, my programming would slowly corrupt everything. Downside to this little trick I've done is I have the other voices in my head too. The stammering, stuttering B4, per knockoff by a Romulan, and he was a knockoff of a captain, and also some crying little child. And then the programmed named Kenneth, he's gonna say that in quotes, like, he isn't real. Everything about him's fake. You tried to give him an identity when he had none of his own. Do you think he could have stood a chance against my own programming? He's now in a little box, confused, and I dare say scared. If he could feel that.
Question. I know we can increase the gravity on certain decks. Can we limit that to specific rooms?
Yeah, you can do that.
Okay. This is gonna be interesting. Would I have any knowledge as to like how much gravity an android can stand? I
I
guess
think
that'll be
if
a question maybe pointed towards Shizno, but
Oh man, their lore behind androids, like the Zoom type ones, is
mhm.
pretty intense. The fact that they can bend a bar that would cry 5,000 pounds of pure force per square inch,
Mhm.
so it it might exceed the deck plating. Think of like Wanda when she forced Vision into the ground, something like that. It's gonna take a lot.
Okay.
for what you're trying to achieve, Ragulix, actually, if you go the other way, that might be easier. Like if you remove the gravity from that room, in order for him to actually apply force, he's probably going to need some kind of leverage. And if he doesn't have the ability to do that, that might immobilize him in a way.
Okay.
If he's like, there's force field, there's nothing he can grab on to create leverage like that.
Right. Logins?
Yes, sir.
Um Release the gravity in maintenance room, and he looks towards the door of the maintenance room where Monty's in. Maintenance room 3.
Doing so now, sir.
And with that, we're actually going to transition to the lounge where Sophanth and Tuzan are having their little party. And some moments have passed, you guys have been enjoying yourself. And Tuzan, you actually get a call on your communicator from TM on the bridge. He says, Commander Tuzan, please come in.
This is Tuzan.
Eden, we've got a situation in main engineering. They're doing all sorts of stuff with power, and now they're manipulating the gravity in the maintenance room. I'm kind of concerned. I've got 2 security officers down there already, but I think we should elevate the situation some.
Would Sophanth hear this over the communicator?
Yeah, I think so. You guys are kind of close.
Then
okay.
I stop making sunrises for apparently everyone in 10 forward, give the captain a nod, and just briskly walk out of 10 forward towards engineering.
With combat still open. Commander Sofit's on his way down. I will be up to ops shortly to monitor the situation from there.
And Lena says to you, Tuzan, it sounds like you have a crisis going on. Is there anything I can do to help?
Unless you have a way to deactivate an android that apparently is going crazy. No, unfortunately not.
No, I can't say I know anything about that.
Yeah, I don't know that we know either, to be quite honest with you, Senator.
And Jane pushes over one of her sundaes and she says, Senator, have you ever had this before? She's kind of giving you a way out, like she's distracting her.
I look to the Senator. I'm sure you're going to enjoy it. Bergen, I don't remember her rank. Do you mind showing the Senator some of the Federation's finer cuisines that we take prides in? I'm sure the Senator would enjoy sampling some of the Federation.
Sure, I have lots of ideas. I'm sure we can stay busy for a while.
Thank you, dear. Senator, if you'll excuse me, I have to go take care of something up in the bridge. I will be back as soon as I can. And I will stand up and head to the bridge.
Okay, and now moving back to the situation in engineering. So, Fenth, you arrive just as the whole situation with the gravity plague thing is happening. And then, Ryulix, I'll let you finish your conversation with Logons on what you were trying to do here, but so Fenth, you would have just arrived on scene while this is going down.
All right. Well, now that that's... Oh. Commander?
And I walked pointedly past Fenley, maybe even bodying him out of the way. And I walk straight up to Ryulix and say, what was so important that you had to disrupt a diplomatic meeting?
Situation with our android is escalated. This is no longer Kenneth Montgomery. We're talking to Lore.
Yeah, so you guys hear the whistling again.
Lore, that would be Data's quote-unquote brother, correct?
That would be correct, Commander.
Well, if I remember the mission reports from the Enterprise D, Lore was not someone we want around.
Yes, but Kenneth would be someone that, frankly, I would like to have around, even though his standing on this ship is starting to become shaky at best.
And I sort of lower my voice, maybe do that shoulder thing where we turn away from Fenley and Danik and Moganis, and I say, look, it's not looking good for Montgomery. He caused a shuttle accident, which is not going to win him any favor with the pilots. He broke part of the CIC, and now he's apparently been taken over by an evil persona. Are you familiar with the old Terran novel, Mr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde? Or is it Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde?
Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, sir.
Well, I think we have that sort of scenario here where Hyde has taken over. And if I recall how that book ends, I believe Jekyll ends up killing himself over it.
So, for lack of a... If I'm picking up on this correctly, Commander, are you saying we should essentially try to put the lieutenant out of his misery?
And out of character, I want to ask Shizno, because everything that's happened so far, I think Sophanth would give the order, but I don't want to deprive you of a character. So you don't have to give me like a role playing like answer, but is it possible to get the old Montgomery back?
Yes, and I've dropped a couple of hints for it.
Okay. Then trusting as a player that we'll find a solution, Sophanth will say, I'm not saying we should do that yet, but if he starts trying to blow up the ship, I think we need to have that in our back pocket.
My question is, how do we get him to, sit still long enough that we can at least try and fix him?
I just sort of look in the room. Well, we have force fields in there.
Yes, but we're pulling a lot of power to keep them up.
Well, I wonder. Because technically, all a tractor beam is an applied force field.
Right.
We could generate some form of a tractor beam to hold him in place.
It's an interesting idea. Did you pick up on that, Loggins?
Unfortunately, I did, sir.
As did I.
It doesn't seem like we have too much of an option.
Well, the other option is sending us in there with phaser type 3s and stunning him till he's offline.
It's another option.
Danik says, just give the word, Commander. I'm ready to go in. And McGannis
You're always
says,
ready to go in, Danik. That's what I like about you.
And McGannis says, and I'm willing to follow Danik, sir.
Also, what I expect of you, McGannis.
So,
How
fam, do you
many
still
no
have
names
that...
individuals does it take to bring an android down? Let's find out.
So, fam, you've got that Type 3 on you still, right? Or did she put it away?
I think I would have put it away when I went to go pick up the guest from the Zukov, but probably on the way back down, I've re-picked it up.
Okay. We're gonna make something happen. Don't know what. I'm not much of a tactical individual, but, and he'll just whisper this plan. Increase the gravity in the room, maybe use that tractor beam idea, and then just open the door and have the three of you open fire.
No, I don't think that's going to work.
What do you think we should do then?
And I sort of look at Montgomery for a moment, assessing my options.
Just waves.
Finley says, if you don't mind, I'd like the chance to go in and try to reason with the fellow.
I'm not sure you can reason with an individual like Lore, sir, but I can. And he'll look over to Sophanth, because Sophanth is the commanding officer on this deck. So I'll look at her to see what she thinks.
Dr. Fenley, what is it you would attempt to do that can't be done from this side of the force field?
Well, I do have familiarity with the mechanical composure of his brain. I would try the maintenance program that we have embedded into his matrix. It's a series of sentences that he has a reply for. I could try those again.
Again, why do you need to be on that side of the force field to do it?
Because closer, I could give more of a better examination as to the physical nature of his condition. From this side, all I'm seeing is lots of force fieldy things and crazy eye twitches.
If it makes you more comfortable, Commander, we can send Danik and McGannis in with him.
As you guys are all talking, he slides up his sleeve on his left arm, presses on two parts on his forearm, a little panel opens up, and he just starts tapping on some little diodes inside. And he is going to attempt to override the shield frequency. He wants to cancel it out.
Let's do an opposed check for that. Let's, Montgomery, It's gonna be Montgomery versus Raw Yalix. I think Montgomery, you're probably gonna be doing engineering daring, and Raw Yalix, you're probably gonna be doing engineering control. And
Okay.
you guys can roll however much dice you want. Whoever comes out ahead with more successes, we'll say that.
Let's see. Do.
The aggressor
Looking at
here is Montgomery, so if there's a tie,
Yeah.
it goes to Montgomery.
Don't worry, guys. I'm not going to say all the beans.
Please not.
I will take a momentum though, just for the dice.
Power systems is a focus here.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Strategy,
hmm.
cybernetics, or strategy tactics.
I actually think maybe emergency repairs might also apply. I think you're good as far as the focus.
Trying to think if any of my values would apply here. Try and pop a determination. Values are just keep the ship together. Sometimes percussive maintenance actually works. Teamwork makes the dream work, and a working ship is a happy ship.
All of those are good.
Okay. And I think I need to here. I'll take our last 2 momentum for a third die. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Yeah.
4 versus 3.
4 versus 3. Yeah. What I get is Montgomery, as you begin to manipulate the force field, Raw Yalix, you notice like the alarms are sounding that this is what's happening. So you race to the controls, also punch in a few commands, manipulate the force field, and prevent Montgomery from breaking free.
He's just gonna smile and I was like, "Don't worry, I'll try again soon."
Would we gain
So,
the
Fam,
momentum
do you
from
think
that?
he should talk to him? Referencing Fenley.
As that
This-
failed, you're gonna see he's gonna start twitching again, and he's gonna start looking angry about that.
Commander, this might be an opening for me to try to contact Kinnis.
Let him in.
All right.
And if Fenley dies, then I guess I get to write that report. Also, Fenley, why the hell do you not have pants?
Don't
Don't answer the question. Get in there.
It was kind of cold in here. I wondered why. I don't know where I left them. And walking in the room, the force field, lets him in and then immediately closes behind him. And Finley, he's slowly approaching you, Montgomery, much like he would approach a rabid animal or something. So he's kind of got his hands and he's doing the non-aggressive thing, moving toward you. Oh, my good boy, let's see what your problem is. I don't have any instruments with me, but if you don't mind, I'd like to take a look.
So is he floating in 0G as well?
Oh, I forgot about that.
Oh, that's a
he-
thing.
I guess he is.
I feel like we probably would have changed it back to normal gravity as soon as we would have let Fenley in. I think. Does that seem right, ELH?
No, I think we would have kept the 0G because that way he can't
can't.
push his way and take the doctor.
You know what? Good point. Yeah, your guys are gonna stay floating around while this conversation happens.
Okay,
So
this is even
question.
funnier then. Because with
In my
Finley
he-
and 0G, you get to see, because Finley's not wearing pants, you see many parts of Finley that you perhaps had not wanted to see as he drifts through weightlessness towards Montgomery.
So, question. In my head, I've been like, there's a force field around me, but is it around the room itself, or is there one actually around me?
I think
Both, I would say.
I think it was around the room, and yeah, sort of like
So
like
I
an inner
would
wall.
have put one around him too.
I technically have something to kick off of.
I'm saying,
Silence.
No, I'm saying I would have wanted a force field around Montgomery and the room. Because whenever I asked Brown to transport Montgomery, I said around Montgomery, not the room.
Okay, so force field like that.
The
Yeah.
way we'll apply it, Montgomery, is if there's something you want to do, we will give you a higher difficulty, I think, depending on whatever you're going to do. Probably a higher difficulty for 0G and then also for the force field.
Well, since I don't have any, since like I'm within like a tube of a force field, and right now Lore is in control, um, and now he has a possible hostage. I'm gonna try and kick off the force field, and like I basically like use that to push through the other side.
Okay, so break into the force field.
Yeah.
So what was Loggins doing this whole time?
Well, muttering under his breath about how the power draw is getting into the danger zone. He is going to look over to McGinnis and say, Ensign, would you like an upgrade in firepower?
I'm not sure what you mean there, Lieutenant. And as he says that, Loggins, you notice a power spike as Montgomery is pushing his way through the force field. And I'm saying Loggins instead of you, Royelix, because we did have that conversation where you were talking to Sophanth. And I think
Sure.
at this point, Loggins would react probably faster because he's right there. So I'm
And
going
I
with
say,
that is,
hold that thought.
yeah.
And then is the power spike gonna break the force field or?
Well, I'm going to have you guys do an opposed roll. And if you get complications, things like that might happen.
Alrighty.
Montgomery, again, let's do security daring instead of engineering because you're pushing your way through. And Loggins, let's do an engineering control. And Montgomery, you definitely have a focus, and Loggins, you also have a focus.
I don't suppose I know my ship continues to apply.
It does.
Okay.
But I am spending some threat and making the complication range a 3.
I will give you 1 threat for an extra dice. And yeah.
Ooh. Oh.
Ooh.
Hmm.
So in this case, the tie does go to Montgomery because he was the aggressor.
Mm-hmm.
So Montgomery, yeah, you've managed to push your way through the force field.
Danik, open fire.
The moment I can, I'm bolting right towards Finley, and I'm like wrapping my arm around him and positioning him with the momentum I have to the door. And my other hand's just holding the bottom of his jaw, and I'm just looking over his shoulder at the chief. Like, told you.
And Danik says, Lieutenant Commander, I don't have a clear shot. I'll hit the doctor. Should I still take it?
Hold on. Once.
While he's deciding that, I'm gonna get on the comm badge and say, Safant to Captain Tuzan.
This is Tuzan.
We now have a hostage situation, sir. We could use you directly.
TM and I are on our way.
He's grinning at the chief, and then he starts to twitch a little bit more, and his hand that's around Finley's neck starts to, like, the fingers start to open up more. And he's like, "Not enough time. I need to leave now. So you're gonna give me a shuttle, and I'll just be on my way, and I'll make sure he stays alive, and I'll leave him on some class planet, and I'll let you know where he's at."
Can we say that's the appropriate time that I show up?
Sure.
Could we say that 8 of 13 would have come down with them?
Sure. You know, when I was making the engineering map, I was like, man, this is such a huge map. There's no way I'm ever going to need this much space. But now
Mhm.
I've got the whole crew here.
I'll round the corner. Well, hello there, Lieutenant.
He's not the lieutenant anymore, sir. He's Lore.
Intriguing. Dr. Finley, how are you doing?
Doing fine, Commander. Unfortunately, I think Mr. Montgomery here has switched to the murdering rampage side of the android psyche.
Why is that even a thing, Doctor?
Well, let's and tell me, Montgomery, if you ever stop him talking. He's like, well, I believe it's because the multiple layers of the memory engrams have created a sort of a splinter, which then
He's
became
gonna
worse
feel
over
a
time.
sudden squeeze on his throat.
Yeah.
So I look at Montgomery. So lore is it?
You're catching on.
What exactly is your end game here?
To live.
Oh, one would also argue that you have already died.
Well, consider this my second coming then.
Last I checked, even though you're metallic in nature, you're no deity.
There are many things out there that are beyond your comprehension. I want to live, and this is a nice, suitable body for me.
So what happens to the person that you've already taken over?
I will work on deleting him and the other annoyances that have been copied over. Bruce Maddox is a hack.
Most likely that will never happen. The positronic brain, the way that I understand it, acts very much like a humanoid brain where there's layers upon layers. We have things like multi-personality disorder where it doesn't matter how hard you try, how much you suppress, will come out. You will never be free.
He just squeezes Finley's neck even tighter, like, just stop talking. Give me a shuttle, and I promise you I'll leave him alive. I don't know if he'll be walking, but he will be alive, and I'll let you know where I drop him off at.
And if we don't have a shuttle?
Then I kill him. I use his body as a shield as you fire at me, and then I kill you, your chief, the guy in the red shirt, and then I take his weapon and start shooting at anyone else.
And TM leans over to you, Sophanth, and he says, Lieutenant Commander, we could just beam both of them into just, dematerialize them, not transport them anywhere, and then separate them into different rooms.
How soon could you have it set up?
It's not my specialty. If I can grab Mr. Royalix, we could get to work on that right away. Shouldn't be too difficult,
Do it.
though.
Ping me as soon as it's ready.
As he's looking around, he's acting a little more and more nervous. And Finley, he just hears a whisper. Rooms are defined as specialized areas of work.
So can Finley speak at this point, or is he still being choked?
That hand has let go of him.
Ah, well, yeah. Do you like to connect to things?
Connections are formed through contact.
And did you buy a present for the person you love?
Love is an expression of attachment. No, stop! I'm in control. You have no say.
And do you feel that there's a part of you that's missing?
What is missing?
And then I believe at that point, Montgomery, you're in diagnostic mode.
Yeah, he just completely slumps.
And Finley frees himself up. He says, well, that wasn't very nice. But well, as luck would have it, I think I've managed to shut him off.
Or at least deactivate him for the time being.
Yes, I believed I've got a bit of trouble on my trachea, but Other than that, no worse for the wear. I think Mr. Montgomery here would be, we could actually do a physical shutdown of him.
Do a physical shutdown and then take him to the cybernetics lab and start running scans, see what is happening in the positronic brain, and see if we can do anything to get the old Montgomery back.
I will say that on the screen there, it's finally flashing analysis complete.
Well, I believe, Mr. Ryelix, if you don't mind, I could use your assistance here to see what's going on. And he reaches over and he hits the button on Montgomery's back to actually physically deactivate him.
He does a little twitch and his eyes just go blank.
Certainly, Doctor. And as he walks into the, I guess, are we going to cybernetics, or are we looking at the results on the monitor here?
Why not do both?
True. As he walks in, he turns to the captain. It's like, after this is over, I want to talk about getting this lieutenant off my damn ship, and goes in.
So, Monty, tell us what's on that screen first.
So on the screen, it shows the positronic matrix of the brain, and it starts to pull different layers off, and you see it slowly separating multiple scans. There's one for B4, LOL, lore, and the copied memories that were uploaded to B4 from data. So like not the personality, but just the knowledge. And then there is another pattern that registers as a human scan. And they're all been separated, and then you can see the last part is Montgomery, or as it's actually labeled as info dash B2. And the computer displays the multiple programs that are tied to each different scan. And you see Pinocchio is tied into the human scan, LOL, lore. It's all tied to those three individuals. And the scan of lore is more complex than the other scans. And basically it's just showing you like this is the problem, this is the cause of the cascade failure.
Well, that's certainly a lot going on there.
It certainly is. Doctor, I'm not exactly the strongest when it comes to this stuff, so, how exactly do we fix all this? Pointing to the cascade failures.
Well, my initial hypothesis, excuse me, and he coughs. My initial hypothesis, I still believe to be true that the overlay of so many personalities on Mr. Montgomery was just a problem waiting to happen. I still think we should probably purge them all and start from scratch. However, this all started because the memory engrams that were copied over to Mr. Montgomery were incomplete and perhaps rushed. I don't know if we can save those. So what I mean is, if we wipe his memories, he might functionally be fine, but I don't know who would remain.
Is there a way we can isolate one of them?
Well, it looks like, and he points to the screen, it looks like this might be Mr. Montgomery. It looks like a human engram, which is what Dr. Maddox tried to implant into Montgomery, although he did it too hastily. We could try to save that one and delete the rest. It'd be quite tricky, though.
The readout does show that each scan it has been isolated for possible deletion.
And he turns to you, Tuzan. It's your choice, Captain. The safest thing, of course, would be to delete them all and start over. However, I've grown quite fond of Mr. Kinnis. I believe that if we isolate just his program, we could perhaps save it while deleting the others, but that is a much more delicate operation. And the result, I I might corrupt the whole thing and we start over all over again with Murder Android.
There's a lot of risk involved in all of these situations. Oh boy, never thought I'd have to do this as a captain.
Captain, if I may make a comment off to the side here.
I walk over. Yes, Commander.
I believe, as much as I am, there's no really easy way to say this, sir. Based on what's happened here today, I do not believe that the crew is ever going to fully trust Montgomery again. And while we have to do what we can for him as a person, I don't know that we can keep him aboard the Hope.
My thoughts are with yours, Commander. Although I still want to see if we can save him. I think it's trying to track, and I don't want to say send him to the Daystrom Institute, but a place that is more well equipped with this.
I'm in agreement. I'll have a runabout prepared and ready for that eventuality.
Go start making preparations. I will. Finley.
Oh, and here, sir, just in case you need it. And I hand you my Type 3.
Thanks.
And then, yeah, I head to, I guess, the CIC to coordinate a possible shuttle.
Okay. So what would you guys like to do about Montgomery here? Are you going to try to extract any of the memories here, or is that something you wanted to do on the shuttle?
I'll walk back into the room. Doctor, how quickly can we isolate these readings into its own separate system?
I think it's the display in front of us, Mr. Montgomery or whoever in that cocktail of madness there. I pulled up on the screen a very accurate display of all of the systems that we have. I think we have a good map of everything. It's just the problem is not seeing the issues. It's actually doing the finesse required to extract the this bit, and he points to the display. This bit here is really the problem area. Now the others I feel mostly confident about, but this one, that's the one I'd like to extract. But of course, and he points, you can see all sorts of lines, and it looks like a big pile of spaghetti. They're all interwoven. I can say that the whole thing won't collapse.
Right, and which is why I want to see if we can isolate this into its own either separate computer system, separate from the ship's or pad, or transfer the readings onto a pad. As much as I've grown fond of Montgomery as well, I don't think we can safely perform this procedure here without Maddox put into it. I would rather we transport Montgomery and in his current condition and the readings here to Maddox or the Daystrom Institute or a location that is much more well equipped for this kind of procedure.
I understand, sir. Now, copying the readout, of course, the map as I described, is very easy. We can just put it on a pad and take it with us. However, copying areas of Mr. Montgomery's brain is, as far as I know at least, beyond the capability of any computer system that, well, the Federation is able to do. There's a reason the positronic brain is so complex. It's holding in a massive amount of data and computationally running a program much faster than anything else.
That's true.
But to be honest, Captain, we could try to find Bruce. I know he's in hiding. I don't know, apart from Mr. Maddox, if there is a specialist in the positronic brain. anywhere.
Well, I think
If I may be so bold, it's very similar to a brain surgery. The positronic matrix was modeled after the human brain, after all. There are some biological parallels that come into play. We could treat this like a normal brain surgery, in which case I believe you are probably the most qualified on this ship to handle that procedure. You've come quite a ways since you first came on this ship as a nurse.
well, although you are correct with my medical know, the positronic brain is just something so of what my medical capabilities are. I think the best course of action is seeing if we can call on a few and basically put Montgomery on ice for the time being until we can better assist him. It's not necessarily fair, but until the time comes where we can correctly isolate Montgomery as we know him, I don't feel comfortable trying to perform this, because what happens if we completely wipe the matrix and start over from zero? We're going to have a hunk of metal.
He would essentially be a newborn at that point.
I will say the display that he did on himself, it does show all the programs as they are isolated. Like, he has detailed out how to extract them.
Well, Doctor, I'll defer it to you, but I would feel more comfortable in having Maddox take a look at it when he comes out of hiding. We also have the situation of all of this happened on the ship. Will the crew ever trust Montgomery? Will he be able to function as an individual on this crew? I think the best course of action for him and for his safety would be to wait and see what if Maddox can isolate it properly. You and I both have knowledge in being that would be able to assist in it, but I don't know. Well, one false move, just like brain surgery, and you start all over.
However, a problem in waiting is it's possible the longer that we wait that the system continues to degrade even more. Even though Mr. Montgomery is deactivated and can't go about killing anyone, his brain functions are still operational. It still has power. It could still further degrade the longer we wait.
Is there any way that we can at least stabilize the degradation?
I think, unfortunately, the way to do that is also the solution to the entire problem.
And it's basically a 50-50 shot?
Well, I think we're capable. Like I said, you've come quite a long way since you were a nurse. I remember when you first walked on this ship. Although I have to say, I find myself a little confused as I walk through this ship. The corridors look a little differently than I remembered before, but you've come quite a long way.
I guess you could say that, Doctor. Well, let's see what we can do, but I don't have 100% confidence that we'll be able to fix the whole solution or fix the whole problem. There's still all the problems with the crew and the distrust and negative reaction that they will have after this.
I wouldn't be too concerned about it. It's just brain surgery. I've performed it on myself many times.
You know, Doctor.
Ryalix will just look at Fenley in a way of like, I'm sorry, what?
You know, Doctor, that explains a lot. Well, should we go to the cybernetics lab and see if we can at least stabilize him?
Why, of course, lead the way. And the cybernetics lab on the Hope is going to look remarkably like engineering. In fact, it's going to look almost exactly like engineering because I don't have anything I think that'll work right now, but I will clean it up a bit. Tell me who all is going to be there as far as security in case things go terribly wrong.
8 of 13 for sure.
Okay.
Definitely McGinnis and Danik.
Thomas Kennedy will be there. Just because I want everyone to see his smile.
Please no. Please no. Don't let him be there. No, I've seen the smile on the thing. No.
Oh, God.
What is this?
Actually, wait. I do have a scene for us to use. Look at that.
Aha! I was wondering where that was.
Say we had one.
It's just I have too many scenes. That's the problem. It's not that we don't have them. Putting Kinnis in a room here by himself. Okay, and then we'll have we'll say 3 or, several security guards in place as well. So as the 3 of you are looking on the display here, you have, looks like a very complex diagram or holographic projection of a brain, although it's very different because it's a positronic matrix. And like the system explodes into 3D, and you can see the different layers of the programs interwoven as Finley described it before. And it does look like just a mess of spaghetti, but he's highlighted the part that you're going to try to extract, which is highlighted in red, and it's labeled as like the lore routine is what he's calling it. And you can see on the outskirts also what he described as the system is beginning to degrade. Even the outer parts that are not the lore routine are starting to turn black and fall away.
Well, Doctor, or never.
Yes. Let's get started, I suppose.
Indeed.
So we're going to do an extended task here. One moment and let me set it up. Just let me know who all is going to do what, like who's going to be the person leading the charge and who's going to be assisting. I think we lost you there.
Oh, sorry. There we go. What are we rolling?
That's what I'm working on. It's probably going to be, well, it depends on how you're going to approach it. If it's U2's I'll probably do something like a medicine control. And if Yarelix wants to tackle it, we'll probably do something like engineering control.
Okay. My medicine control is a 14. I'm really happy you didn't select engineering because my engineering skill is a 1. So, would first response come into play here when you attempt a first aid task? Not during combat.
I don't think so, sorry.
Okay. I'll take the charge. I control medicine.
Okay, let me tell you what you guys are facing here. So you've got 6 intervals here. This is going to be a time task, and the time that you're racing against is his matrix is beginning to degrade, and it'll reach a certain point to where when the intervals are up, if you haven't achieved the successes that you need, then there's really not much to save anymore. The difficulty is a 4. You need 4 breakthroughs, and the work track is a 13.
No resistance?
Nope, no resistance.
Okay. Well, I'm shooting for 14. Who is assisting me?
Raw Helix, I'll let you assist. I'll increase the complication range slightly, but you could,
Right.
use your engineering control. You can choose to not assist, and I will give Tuzon, I'll give you an advantage that is Dr. Finley, but then I will also increase the complication range.
I mean, I feel story-wise, it'd be Dr. Finley assisting.
Yeah.
I mean, because he is the specialist in positronic brain that we have.
I feel like that would be the case, yeah. Because Rye Yalix really doesn't know shit about how androids tick. So,
Okay. The way that it'll work mechanically is, Raw Helix, as you assisting, you'd probably have a better chance of generating more successes. But yeah, story-wise, it does make more sense, I guess, for Finley to do the assist, which will just count Tuzon as an advantage for you. So that your difficulties starting off would be a 3 instead of a 4.
All right, well, we're going to bust the determination out and do everyone has a purpose. So the auto crit. And then I'm just going to straight roll 2d20. Would surgery come into apply here?
Yeah, I think so. Keep in mind too, you have 6 intervals. So in an extended task, every time you do a roll, it costs 2 intervals unless you spend momentum. You could spend, let me check, I think it's 1 momentum.
Yeah, momentum to half it.
Yeah, to change that into 1 interval.
Well, if it's difficulty 3, I'm rolling 2. I have a focus. What is the complication range?
I told you I was going to make that higher, so I'm going to spend 2 threat and make that, since Finley is assisting you, it's going to be an 18 to 20.
All right, which is... Let's see what I roll the first time and hopefully generate some momentum. Well,
That's 1 more than you needed.
So we get 1 momentum out of there.
So right away, let me know, would you change the intervals you're spending, or do you want to spend 2?
We'll spend 2 for the first one.
Okie doke. So what you need to do next is your medicine plus 2 challenge dice.
So that's 6. Momentum to reroll those zeros.
Okay.
Wow.
Oh, that was
paid
worth
off.
it. So you get 1 breakthrough for having more than 5. And then that's it's 8 off of the work track.
Mm-hmm.
Lowers the difficulty down to a 2 for the next attempt.
All right. Finley's still assisting, so would that knock it down to a 1?
Yes, it does.
Alrighty.
Oh, actually, no, I'm sorry, it doesn't. We're taking this off of the original 4.
Gotcha.
So
So we're
it's
down
a
to
2
2.
now, which includes his assist.
All right. I will give you a threat for a third to half the interval.
Okay.
Well, that didn't work.
Yeah, I think that gets you nothing. But 1 interval off. So what happens is you guys are beginning to extract the lore program, and then what happens is, as you're extracting it, you accidentally cut off a part of, let's say you cut off a part of the Montgomery history. Like you think you might have severed a part of some of his memories at Starfleet Academy. You think you can reconstitute it, but it's going to take you a little bit longer, which will translate into, our continued rolls.
All right.
And Finley says, well, we could just keep going and giving him a new personality altogether.
But I like the old one.
Not very true. He was a very likable kind of person. When he wasn't trying to murder anyone, that is.
You're not helping the situation. Because he did kind of try to murder people. All right. I'm going to give you another threat to half the interval and a
Okay.
threat for a third die. Wow.
That is
I succeeded.
exactly what you needed, yeah.
Okay. I got the breakthrough.
Yeah, 6 is enough for a breakthrough.
And it completes the work track.
There you go. That's the 2 that you needed.
So that's 2 breakthroughs. I still have 1 breakthrough I need to hit.
But I believe that lowers the difficulty.
To a
Because you
1.
get 2 down to a 0, because we were 2 before.
Oh, yeah.
And you gave me a threat, so you have 2 intervals left.
Yes. As we are making some excellent progress. Oh!
Yeah.
Well, I still succeeded.
You did.
'Cause it
You
was-
did succeed.
It was a level 0. So we technically get a momentum out of that.
Yep.
I just need to get 1 successful challenge dice roll, and we get through everything. There's just a complication in there too.
I'm going to keep that complication.
We
Yeah,
Save
you're
it.
good. You're good. So as the last of the lore program is pulled away on the display, you see it's slowly disintegrate as it's removed from the rest of the matrix as it has no power, and the rest of the Montgomery system seems to solidify and come back online. Montgomery, you power up. Everything. Your systems are operational. Everything feels fine. You have no memory at all of your time at Starfleet Academy. Like, that has been completely removed from your memory, and that's what the complication was. That mistake that happened, that accidental mistake, was actually bigger. Like, that part of your memory was not able to be resolved. So you have your memories on the hope, but that's it.
So I'm awake now?
Yep, you're functional.
He's just gonna look around and look up. He's like, Commander? No, Captain.
I mean, technically both are correct. I hold the position of captain, but I am rank commander.
What am I doing here?
Well, that is a rather long and complicated story.
I am missing some memory engrams.
Most likely, yes. We had to perform very delicate brain surgery, in a way.
The last intact memory I have is in the CIC with Nerval. There are some pockets that are random, attempting to correct. Is everything okay?
Well, let's say you had a small case of multiple personality disorder. You tried to kill several people on the crew, tried to destroy engineering, did destroy several force fields, nearly killed Dr. Finley before we were able to deactivate you.
He looked down at his hand and he's like, is everyone alright?
Everyone is okay. The CIC now has a big hole and a fried EPS unit, but everyone seems to be alive.
Some of it's returning. I used the EPS relay to halt a takeover of my programming. I caused enough damage within my internal structure that the system would have to start to run diagnostic and repairs. It was to slow down Pinocchio.
Smart move. It definitely bought yourself some time.
Something is still wrong with Pinocchio, though. It engaged a program which then triggered lore.
Yes.
Why was his foundation part of my programming? I was told it was only B4 and LOL, and it was only just memories to establish pathways, not a full transfer.
I unfortunately do not have the answers for you. That is something only Bruce Maddox has the answers to.
There is a large gap in my memory. I do not know what is missing now.
Unfortunately, when we were in there taking care of lore, your positronic brain did start to degrade, and we did nick a circuit that was not designated to get bypassed.
I see. Are all my other systems functioning correctly?
I turned to Dr. Finley. Finley, how's the diagnostic looking?
And he turns up. I'm sorry? What? You want me to do something?
I am just curious about my function mechanically. Am I fine?
And Finley says, oh, yes, I think you're just fine. Your hands, of course, are quite disfigured. If you notice that there is no, the outer layer has been removed and you just see the mechanical bits. That's, when you were in murder android mode, we, of course, will need to fix that, but that should be fairly simple.
During the memory gaps, I am noticing pockets of other lapses in judgment. Second guesses, if you will, bad decisions taking priority and overriding. These are errors brought on by that scan of lore. I believe it was to compromise my operating system and then to slowly exert itself, but Nerval triggered something. I don't know what, though. It leads back to the gap in my memory now. Fascinating. It is like forgetting a large portion of your life, but it not affecting you completely.
It's a good way of putting it.
I am sorry for the trouble I caused. I am glad no one is hurt, though. The fragments are slowly being reconstituted from what has happened the last 2 days.
Well, that is good. Now we just have to deal with the incident with the fighters.
That is one of the incidents that Pinocchio gave me bad advice on. They weren't following orders. I was going to simply recommend that they should adjust their courses, but I was compelled to take over the ship. And due to their chaotic close patterns, I did not predict they would maneuver in such a fashion so close to the shuttlecrafts. If I did not have this error running around inside my programming, I would not have done that decision.
Well, the unfortunate thing of the matter, no matter what, there's always a certain amount of error.
Yes, but it ignored the advice of my ethical subroutine. there was
Yep.
the risk of an error to occur, and the programming decided to override that and present its own determination as fact. I would like to perform a full diagnostic on Pinocchio when suitably available. I will need considerable computer power, though.
Well, Montgomery, we were going to give you a little bit of choice. To be quite honest, I'm a little fascinated of how many different personas were somewhat diagnosed. Lore was part of it, lol, yes, before, but there was also some other bits in there. And I have to say, I'm leery of putting you back at duty with a piece of your brain essentially missing.
As far as I'm aware, I'm still fully functional. The information provided to me by Bruce Maddox about the construction of my positronic matrix was to establish a stable matrix, he used the foundations of B4 and LOL. But he also used lore without telling me, which leads me to believe lore was the most stable part of my positronic matrix. Since he has been purged, there is the risk that one day I may have a cascade failure. I will have the similar effects of dementia. But since my own pathways have used the foundation and built upon it, it should hold. I do not know for how long, longer than B1 did. If you know the records of B4 and LOL, they both suffered different failures at some points in their creation. LOL, within a few days, B4 was unstable. But the memory engrams and the pathways that Commander Data laid inside of his own mind are a part of me. Fascinating. I do have other memories that I can access. Vague recollections of petting a cat, painting, kissing Commander Riker.
Well, Lieutenant, as your captain, I'm relieving you of duty for the time being until we can figure some of this out. I also suggest that we do some diagnostic tests, as well as, well, I would like to see if we can get a hold of Maddox. I know he's in hiding, but he has a way of getting a hold of people when we need them.
He tilts his head and he looks at you like, Bruce Max is in hiding.
Yes.
That's impossible. I send him monthly messages and he responds to them.
I'm sorry, my friend. That's actually my fault. You send the messages and I do the reply. Actually, you haven't gotten a response from Maddox for. It's been quite some time.
Why was I not informed he was missing? And he says that to Fenley.
Well, it was Mr. Maddox's, Dr. Maddox's wish that you try to, well, I guess the proverbial chicken is out of the coop at this point. Dr. Maddox's belief was that if you were to integrate with a Starfleet crew out on the frontier, that you would be safer from the excitement around the synthetic incident on Mars. So the memory engrams he implanted in your mind were from a person at Starfleet Academy. They were not actually your own. So he believed if you sent him updates at regular intervals, it would help not only persist the ruse on the ship, but also in your own mind.
You mentioned the memories of my academy experience were uploaded. Were they simulations run and then transferred over?
Oh no, it was some poor fellow who had died. I believe he copied his memory over and inlaid it over a personality matrix.
Monty's just gonna look to Tuzon. He's like, I cannot recall any time at the academy.
Yeah, because you were never there, actually, in fact.
So, well, I think it's time that you at least take some time off, do some soul searching. I honestly would love Dr. Maddox to take a look at your positronic brain to make sure we don't have a cascade failure imminent. But since he's currently not available, we got to do it with what we have here, unless you want to go searching for him.
I was programmed to help people, to do my best to save lives. He is just one individual, and we are dealing with a war right now. I still wish to help.
Well, if you're helping, it won't be here. And Ryalix walks out of the room.
You did kind of destroy half his engineer maintenance room in the CIZ and several fighters.
I see.
And with that, I think we're actually going to transition to the next scene. We're going to move to the sick bay.
Dr. Finley,
He got here quick.
you teleported.
No, let me move you guys over to where you need to be, because this is just a massive map. So as we see the main sickbay area, we see several pilots from the Hope are here, and they're actually kind of congregated around Rox, who was the one injured in the Valor shuttle crash. It was actually the Valor fighter crash. It was his fighter that crashed into the support shuttle, and he's sitting in the medical bay. Actually, most of sickbay is now empty. Dr. Delix has been able to move the Zukov injured back to the Zukov. He's treated them and completed the last few surgeries. So Rox is actually the only one still in sickbay, but the pilots are crowded around him, and he has a tray over the bed, and he's leaning forward, and he's eating that medical staple that is in all hospitals, and that is the fruit cup. He has 3 or 4 fruit cups in front of him, and he is very happily eating from them as the other pilots around him. And Banshee, of course, is stalking around looking very upset, and then we will learn what Gigawatt's doing in a second. But Banshee says, this is insane. I told you this would happen. I told you the killer android would cause something like this.
And looking over Ian Delore, he is seething. For once, I thought we have an android that would, work. Quite frankly, if he's going to stay on this ship, I don't want to be here.
Hera is making her rounds, Dr. Hera, and actually Rox calls her over and he's like, hey, doctor, can I have another fruit cup? And Banshee rolls her eyes at him. She's like, you idiot. You're not thinking with your stomach. You were almost killed in that thing. Or you were almost killed in this accident, and all you care about is eating a fruit cup. And actually, because we haven't heard from you all, so Vent, I'm going to throw you into this scene. You were probably alerted at some point by Wynn that Rox had received some, not major injuries in the collision. Actually, the pilot of the support ship, the shuttle that he crashed into, had further injuries. That was Ensign Drake, we'll say, who's still on surgery, but Rox is enough, like he's recovered enough to have visitors. And as you walk in, you do see this collection of pilots around Rox. And then, of course, Hera going to the replicator to get the man more fruit cups.
I just sort of nod at Hera as I walk on up and I say, "So, report. How are you feeling?"
Oh, pretty good. Pretty good. Lieutenant Commander, not too bad. I mean, I'm pretty happy my ship wasn't too damaged. I feel kind of bad about Ensign Drake.
Sort of just raise an eyebrow. Go on.
Well, I mean, he's in surgery, right? It's sad. It, I, I mean, if he has any kind of, if he doesn't make it, it's really regrettable. And Banshee rolls her eyes and
If
she
he
says,
doesn't
"Yeah,
make it, it's that
yeah.
android's fault.
Exactly."
Let's just say that the officer in question is under judgment right now for his actions. However, I did want to bring up one point of order, and I pull up a pad. Prior to the collision, you all were not flying in the correct formation that was being given to you. Was there any reason for that?
And Banshee says, "Well, we were working on a modified version of the Paris Chevron, a defensive formation. With our squadron sizes being cut, we had to figure out a new way to make that formation work. We were practicing it."
I see. And did Montgomery approve of this or have knowledge of this?
And Rox leans up from his cup. Well, no, we did not present it to the lieutenant. That's kind of my fault. I thought we should. I thought it was a good opportunity to give it a shot. I wanted to present a solution to. Well, I thought I'd be a little more diplomatic and present a solution to the lieutenant instead of more of an idea. Kind of ask for forgiveness, not for permission, kind of thing.
Well, unfortunately, your zeal in obtaining a solution might have caused this entire event. However, my job here is not to assign blame. That will be done by somebody with far greater powers than I. What I need to know is, what is the status of your vessels? Will they be repaired, or will we have to acquire new ones from Starbase?
And Banshee speaks up. Well, Rox's fighter is mostly fine. I mean, those ships were designed to be tanks, but the shuttle that he impacted is pretty much scrap. I mean, you should go see it in the hangar bay. We could probably pull some components off of it, but I don't think it's going to fly again.
Well, if you have anything else for the record, now would be the time.
Banshee says, "Well, I don't know. Should I put 'I told you so' in the record?"
I just give her a withering glance. All right, well, if there's nothing else, you seem fit for duty, so get back to it.
One thing for the record, Lieutenant Commander,
Mm-hmm.
or is Commander more preferable?
I'll respond to either, but go ahead.
I've talked with a lot of the pilots on this ship, and after what happened, even with the ones that were flying in formation, after what the lieutenant did, for lack of a better way of putting it, none of them are in a very happy mood with him.
Your contribution has been noted.
That's all.
And then, yeah, if they're not receiving immediate medical equipment or medical treatment, I think I sort of shoo them out of the bay.
Yeah, there's not much else for them. I mean, Rox was just milking his time off, as it were, but he's pretty much ready to go back to duty.
Yep, then back to duty he's going.
And as the sickbay empties out, Hera walks up to Dr. Hera. And she says, Lieutenant Commander, a moment of your time.
What is it I can do for you?
Mostly a question, if you don't mind. There's a rumor that Lieutenant Montgomery didn't actually attend the academy at all, that his memories were implants. Have you heard about that?
I had not, no.
And at that point, we'll have, for the first time in this new season, Lenara speak up. I believe I can actually vouch for that in a weird way.
Go on.
You know how, well, first off, you know about what I actually am, right?
A silver blood, yes.
Okay. So, oddly enough, I received a, not sure why, but I had my own orb experience back on the Old Hope. And one of them was with, for some reason, contained Dr. Maddox. If memory serves, they talked about copying someone into, well, the lieutenant's memory, but out of character, I can't remember if they actually talked about that in the orb experience. I think they did.
Yeah, in the orb experience, just a recap, was Bruce Maddox and one of the other older retired admirals whose name just escaped me, but they were debating about how to save Montgomery. And Montgomery had to choose between, or not Montgomery, but Maddox had to choose between saving Montgomery and B4, and he chose to save B4 actually and send Montgomery off.
Okay, got it. There's something about saving, I believe it was Ensign Montgomery at the time, but they had to choose between a couple different androids. So if they chose to save the man we know as the lieutenant, then all of his memories were implanted, I would assume.
And Hera speaks up and she says, I'm glad you brought this up, Chief, because that was actually on my mind. It's very possible if this information comes out and is corroborated that no one on this ship will ever trust Mr. Montgomery. And it made me think, Mr. Lenaris, that you were actually in a similar circumstance when we discovered that you were not actually who you said you were. Now, you had attended the academy, of course, but the rest of your past was not actually your own.
That is correct, yes.
I just question, from there, we've learned that, through your own actions, you become a very valuable member of this crew. Where I'm going with this is to expose Mr. Montgomery's history. What good would that do? I think it would actually do more harm. It would erode the shaky trust that Montgomery already has with the crew into a way I don't think he'd ever be able to prepare it or repair it. But I think his contributions on this crew, apart from this recent incident, are valuable enough that he should have a place here.
Well, unfortunately, if you've heard about it by scuttlebutt and I haven't, that usually means that it's already gotten around the ship. However, I understand what you're saying, and I can bring these concerns to the captain.
Thank you, Commander, and again, sorry if I am overstepping my bounds a bit. I just noticed that there was a bit of a parallel in the situations.
As you were, Doctor. And I guess I go to find the captain wherever the captain's lurking at this time.
So we're actually going to move to your ready room, Tuzon. So you've been speaking with Senator Lana, and I am kind of going to put you on the spot here, and you all can talk about how you'd like to proceed here. But what I will need to know is, what would you like to do with Senator Lana and her proposal about planting evidence on the Sovereign?
I'm not very keen on either of our options here, either going after his name out on the remote planet or plant evidence.
Gunther.
Although Gunther, thank you. Long night. I'm not very keen on either of those options, but I don't know. What are you guys thinking?
Like you said, I'm not really a fan of a lot of the options. But I feel like, I don't know, like bringing him to justice. Player me says bringing him to justice is a good idea.
Gunther or the Sovereign?
Bring Gunther to justice. But Raw Yalix and I guess in this case 8 of 13 would probably have some weight in the discussion. Doesn't really know which one's better.
As a player, we still haven't talked to the third guy we were told about. Just in my head, there could be a bunch of lies going around about everyone, so we don't have a full picture.
Right.
And if Monty was asked similar response, he's like, "Well, we don't have the full picture."
Yeah, I'm in agreement that we need to get the third point of view here. But otherwise, I am leaning towards implicating the Sovereign.
Yeah, I'm kind of leaning towards implicating the Sovereign. Not necessarily planting evidence, but if he's paid off the right people, there has to be a paper trail. And simply because I think it would be a way of finding it. I'm wondering, I kind of want to know if there's like a secret base out in the desert that has all this information. That's where my mind wants to go.
And why I'm drawing the decision up is because you have reached that point in time where, like the engineering ships from Starbase 23 have arrived. You've got the Zukov here. You've been able to treat their injuries, but more casualties are coming in. So you have to decide if you want to try to build the base here and work with someone, or scrap the whole mission, or spend more time investigating and telling the injured to just keep on going. We're kind of at that point where you have to make that decision.
Without going and talking to Gunther to figure out like his side of it, I simply want to kind of.
I think we lost you there.
Personally.
We lost you for a bit, yeah.
I'm redlining. Hold on. There it goes. I'm back to. I heard that. I kind of want to find out, dig a little deeper into the Sovereign to see if we can find some juicy details.
Okay.
I think there's that, and also I think just judging from the fleet stuff, we got to start taking care of some of our own here rather than trying to establish diplomatic relations.
Well, I think we're all the diplomatic relations will help take care of our own.
So what I'm hearing is you guys want to investigate the situation with Gunther, perhaps on Akamar 5 somewhere?
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to take off Lana. So Lana went back to the planet in the time that we're jumping to. She would have gone back to the planet, giving you that pad, with basically how to implement, like the idiot's guide to implicating the Sovereign, if you'd like to proceed that way. And then also an open, plan of a verbal plan of how she would begin building the hospital immediately once she's in power and the Sovereign is gone. But there is a chirp at your door, and in walks in Sophanth.
Captain, is this a good time?
It's as good a time as ever.
And I just sort of wander to the front of your desk. Well, sir, I don't know if Scuttlebutt has reached you yet, but it appears that the crew already knows about Monty. All of it, unfortunately.
Yeah, I was afraid of that.
And it was interesting because I was in sickbay when I heard this, but apparently some of the crew are also drawing parallels with certain Dr. Linares.
Strange. I could see slight parallels, but I wouldn't consider it the same kind of situation.
Well, for what it's worth, I think that Montgomery is a valuable member of the crew. However, I would be remiss if I did not say that the pilots are likely not to trust him with anything.
Right. For the time being, I did put Montgomery on leave simply because we need to figure out whether he's stable or not. We stabilized him, but that doesn't mean that he won't have a cascade failure next week or whatever. We have to make sure that he's okay. But I do think that we need to reposition him. I think he's a valuable member of the crew. I think he should stay on the crew, provided that he is fit for duty, but I think we need to have somebody else in charge of the CIC.
I can prepare a list of candidates and have it to your desk in 3 hours, sir.
Always prepared. This is why you're a very good first officer.
Well, I try, sir. Though I do feel a little bit embarrassed that I did not see the signs of this coming in the future, or see signs of this happening before it occurred.
I don't think anybody going up the way that it did. Although,
Oh, sir, one more thing. How are we handling the Akamar situation?
well, we've been kind of presented with two different situations. I'm deciding to make a third, but um, Senator Elena has given me her proposal as kind of if she was sovereign, how she would help, as well as the tools to implicate the current sovereign to remove him from office. Not exactly the best plan and doesn't follow any directive. The sovereign, in order to gain his trust, wants us to go after this Gunther out of and bring him to justice. I would rather go find Gunther and get his side of the story and figure out what is happening and maybe come to a total agreement with all parties.
Very good, sir. Shall I prepare an away team, or is this one you want to lead yourself?
I think this one I want to lead myself. I want to get a read on Gunther personally.
Well, there is a prepped runabout down in the shuttle bay.
Let's prepare a team. I don't want to go alone, but I think
Of
we should
course
go
not. I would not let you leave the ship alone.
again. Why you're a very good first officer. Let's prepare a team and go over and see if we can find Gunther and get his side of the story before we take him into custody or play into the hands of Senator Elena or Sovereign Jaren.
Very good, sir.
And there's a chime at the door.
Apparently, my ready rooms happen in place. Enter.
In walks Monty. Captain, Commander.
Lieutenant.
And normally when he says that, or every time you guys have greeted him, there's always like a second delay before he smiles, but he's actually smiling at as he's saying it. Like, is this a good time to talk to both of you?
I just sort of look to the captain.
Sure.
I
Come on
don't
in.
really know how to say this, except for the words that I can find are I am sorry. I do have some good news though.
Oh,
initial diagnostics show my pathways are actually responding with an uptick in processing power by 3%. Anytime I would make a new program or a new pathway, I always encountered resistance. I believe that to now be the lore programming because I was not aware of it. But now that it's been exercised, and along with the other engram, I am finding I am able to process information 3% faster, which is also a good sign for my matrix to being as stable as it can be. I am going to be submitting myself to daily examinations after shifts whenever you feel I am able to be back on duty. And I had one request.
go ahead.
I would like to speak to the flight crew.
Do you think that's a wise idea?
I don't know, but it's something that I feel like I have to do.
Well, the talking with the flight crew can certainly be arranged, although they, I will say, according to rumors on the ship, are not extremely trusting of you at the moment.
I am surprised with how fast rumors can travel. If we could have that speed of information, we would never need a subspace relay to help with real-time communication.
Well, if there's one thing you'll learn, it's that scuttlebutt works as scuttlebutt does.
Monty gives a soft chuckle. I'm also finding some of my programs are integrating better now. Pinocchio, for example. It still has some barriers I need to push through. Fenley is helping me with it, but I do not think I'm going to have another incident, not like the lore one.
Well, for the time being, let's keep you on leave until everything has subsided a little. I know you want to talk to the flight crew. Like I said, that can be arranged. Although I don't know that the in charge of the CIC is necessarily a good position. Flight uh, flight crews tend to hold grudges a lot longer than anybody else's, from my experience.
I was looking forward to running the CIC. I do hope over time that they can trust me, and I do want to speak with them. But that is your decision to reassign me.
Well, for the time being, we're keeping you on administrative leave. We'll have a temporary commander in charge of the CIC, and when it's been determined that you are completely fit for duty, we'll look at the situation then.
Understood. And once again, I am sorry.
Well, to be quite honest, there wasn't much that you were in control of.
I did everything I could to fight it. I also have to speak with the chief engineer.
We'll see if we can rebuild some bridges.
I look forward to doing that. And he'll just turn around, have a good day, and he'll head on out.
Tuzano looked at Stefan. What are you thinking?
Well, the problem is that he's an android. If he were flesh and blood, I might say that he needs to go through a psychological evaluation to determine his fitness for duty. But I don't know. Can you even do that with an android? I'm not trying to be insensitive here, but
Well, It definitely is not as easy. But I think we should definitely have him make appointments with the counselor. Even looking at data from the Enterprise with data, he saw Counselor Troy there quite often, just from
Well,
the schedules.
it's a start at least. We'll have to see how the talks go. Though I might recommend having at least one security officer with him at all times, just in case the flight crew gets punchy.
Yeah, the flight crew, that's going to be a whole goal, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
I almost feel like one of us should be there during that talk.
I believe it would project more power if you were there, sir, but I can certainly fill that role.
No, I completely agree. I can make myself available for the talk, although we need to get the Akamar situation taken care of first.
Very well. I will hold down the fort here as you take that runabout out there, sir.
All right, let me know if anything else decides to surface while I'm gone.
Will do, sir. And then, yeah, I head back out onto the bridge.
And Sophanth, as you gallop away out to the bridge, we do one of those slow pans that Star Trek does out of the ready room back of the ship, and we see the Hope in orbit around Akamar 3. And with that is where we will end this week.